Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Players Take, episode 270. I'm your host, Justin DeSimone, joined by my co host, Montrell Rice. Montrell, how are you doing on this fine Thursday?
I had to take off, man. Like we're recording early, so yeah, I
Mental
just had
health
to take
day?
off work. Yeah, I woke up in like a real bad mood, and I did not want to go to work. And we have a new person. It's not the new person's fault. I just didn't want to go work with my attitude like that, and I didn't want to be really stanky towards the new person. So, um,
Yeah,
and I got like 2 exams coming up, so
mm,
I'm just just been trying to. I wanted to use this day to just like as a free day because Friday and Saturday I'm actually going back to this teacher's going to be up at the class on Saturday, so I'm going to be up there in the labs doing some stuff, messing with the racks and everything like that. Um,
mm,
I'm going to probably be up there for the most of the day, and then come back home and stuff like that. And then when I come back home, I'm going to be working on my gun, and I have to take my gun up to the fire range to make sure it works properly this time. So I got a lot of stuff I'm
mhm,
doing. And then after I get back from the firing range, then I'm gonna fucking study some more and shit like that for Monday. And hopefully I'll pass everything on Monday, so I don't have to come in on Wednesday.
mhm.
Because Wednesday would be like the makeup day. But yeah,
Gotcha.
then after that, it's like we're not even taking a break off. We're going straight into the next class. The teacher said she wanted to do that because we're doing online classes for the
Mhm,
third one. So we're not even taking a break off of that. So I'm going straight into that because she wants us to take the test before um September, the actual CCNA exam, because they're
mhm.
adding more stuff on the next version of the CCNA. So if I don't pass it on the 15th of August, I'm gonna have to take another class because they're adding more stuff to the CCNA. So I gotta take that class too to prepare for the next version of CCNA, which are adding 200 more questions to the CCNA.
What the fuck? Oh my
Yeah,
Jesus Christ, dude. What the
yeah,
fuck? That is so fucking overkill. 200
yeah.
questions? I mean, what do they want this test to take 12 hours to take?
So what they do is normally they pool. It's 120 questions, right? It's 2 hours, 120 questions. So you essentially get a minute on each question,
Oh, I see.
and
Okay.
then they take from a pool of 1,200 questions.
So
But
it's a
when they
random
yeah, exactly,
120 out of the pool. Okay. So they're adding
yeah,
200 to the pool.
yeah,
I see.
exactly, yep.
Okay. But you're
So
not being taught on that 200 right now,
no, not right
basically.
now. It's actually like how the search kind of expire or whatever. I'm like the
Yeah.
last person right now to get this, or the last
The current
generation of
iteration.
this, yeah, this
Yeah.
cert to get it. And
That makes
then the
sense.
next one, yeah, the next one we got go or whatever. So
Okay.
um
That makes sense.
yeah.
Well, so, um, okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, yeah, I know what you mean with the mental health day though. I took this week off from work and my god, did I need it. I was fucking I was so done with my job like last week. I was just ready to fucking walk out at a certain point. And this has been a very re-energizing, revitalizing week. I've had been very fucking busy though, like insanely busy. But I have managed to play a lot of games as well during this period of time. So I feel very productive. I feel like I've gotten a lot done. Dude, I spent 2 days over the weekend working on my yard. Um, I did a bunch of, I actually like tried to cook something new. I'm actually working on something tomorrow too. I'm going to try to make a marinara sauce tomorrow, for the first time, kind of sort of from scratch, using like canned tomatoes, but I'm gonna give that a shot. I made some homemade mozzarella sticks,
Oh shit! You should have
breaded them
called me. I
up
would
and
have came
shit
over.
with like, it's kind of funny actually. It was weird. They came out pretty good, like, but I don't think the effort was worth it ultimately. Like it didn't. They don't taste that much better than like the frozen ones you can buy. Like it wasn't.
Okay.
It was honestly like it was a little. It wasn't worth it to me. So that was, but I just wanted to experiment. I do fried chicken cutlets, so I know the basis for how to do like to bread stuff and everything like that with eggs and flour and everything. So I know how
Okay.
to do it. It's a lot of work. Like it takes probably an hour. Depending on how much you're doing, it can take an hour or two to just do the breading part. And then you actually have to cook it all also, which can take another hour probably. But so it they came out pretty good, but like I said, I don't think it was worth it in terms of how they came out for the amount of effort. So, but it's just something new. I'm just trying to. I want to start like learning how to cook like a little bit more. I'm not gonna go. I don't want to go crazy. I don't want to become like to the point where I'm like a fucking. I could go like cook at a restaurant or anything like that. But I just want to learn how to do some basic things, some Italian dishes, and kind of learn how to cook meat a little bit better. And eventually I want to work my way up to like getting like a grill, and learning how to grill and stuff. So that's kind of where my head, I'm like, because Amanda and I want to have kids, and it's like when neither of us really know how to cook, that's going to be difficult, to
Yeah.
not really know how to cook with kids. So we're kind of both doing that. We're kind of doing our own thing, but um with it and trying to learn different dishes and stuff. So kind of did a little bit of that this week. And Also, like I said, playing some games. I've been doing I've actually been recording some footage for from some of the games I've been playing. I think I want to try to make a video. I always say this, but I'm actually like endeavoring to maybe like learn how to do this and come up with like a system I can replicate so I can actually start making videos on our YouTube channel, because we don't really do anything on YouTube, and I think we kind of I don't know, I kind of want to start doing something like that. So I've been working on that too this week as well, and then just a few other odds and ends around the house, chores and whatnot. But went out, played Magic yesterday. Saturday we're doing a yard sale, so it's been a very busy week, Montreal. Despite being off, but it feels good. Like I feel really productive. It's not like I've had vacations before where I take a week off and I don't end up doing anything that I set out to do, and it's like, you don't feel great about that. So this has kind of been the opposite. It's kind of re-energized me. As much as I've been doing a lot, I'm like it feels good to be productive. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. But yeah, like I said, a lot of games. Been playing a lot of games. I watched the whole Fallout show. Also, we're going to talk about that later. So we got a nice packed episode today that I'm really excited to get into. Let's jump into it. For those of you who haven't listened before, this is our weekly show where we talk about video games, video game news, and other topics pertaining to video games. We post at 6 a.m. Central Time on Fridays on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and YouTube Music. We send, if you want to send us questions that we'll answer on the show, you can do so on Twitter at The Players Take, or you can send us an email to theplayerstake01@gmail.com. And Montreal, so I was going through, I fell into like a little mini rabbit hole yesterday of YouTube shorts for like 2 hours when I woke up, which I don't usually do. I'm not the type of person who does that, but I don't know. I was on a run. There's just like a lot of entertaining videos in there, but there was one though that I learned something new about the GameCube that I don't know if did you know this, that the GameCube has different startup noises if you press the Z button when you're booting it up. And there's two different noises. There's one if you press Z on one controller, it has a certain noise, and then there's a second one if you have four controllers plugged in and you press Z on all four of them at the same time when you're powering the console up, there's a different noise. That's like
I
did you know that?
I didn't know about the four controllers. I knew about the one controller. That
Okay.
one I didn't know about.
I didn't know about this at all. Dude, it blew my fucking mind. I'm a humongous GameCube fan. It's probably my favorite console of all time, and I had no idea about this. Like I
Yeah,
never fucking knew about this.
I didn't know about the four controller, and that's pretty crazy. But the one controller when I did that, and I did it because um I thought it was a way to unlock a character off Super Smash Brothers Melee. And there was a
Mm,
rumor going around in my school that if you hold the Z button while booting up,
yeah.
you can unlock like Mewtwo or something like that. But then obviously we know you have to unlock Mewtwo with the 700 hours or
Oh
whatever.
yeah. Oh,
Um,
and we all did it.
yeah.
We all did it, baby.
So
Yeah,
yeah, I did know about that because I was like, "Whoa, what the fuck?" So I'm actually going to unlock it, but nothing happened, or whatever the case may be. So,
yeah,
yeah, I did know about that. I spent plenty of time on my GameCube. I honestly think the GameCube has the most hours out of like lifetime hours out of me out of any console in my gaming career. I spent a lot of time on that damn
yeah.
console.
Oh, me too, man. No, dude, I was. Dude, I was up Melee's asshole. Like 700 hours from you two. Yeah, that's nothing. I probably put in triple that or more potentially over my lifetime playing Melee. I mean, I was playing Melee through I don't know 2010, 2011. Like we tried Brawl and we didn't like my friend group didn't really none of us really like Brawl very much. So we just ended up going back to Melee. And
Mhm.
yeah, dude, there were like 2 whole summers in high school where I was going over this we were going over one kid's house and we played Melee every single day for 2 straight summers for hours on end, like 6 hours a day probably. It was fucking complete insanity.
Yeah,
So
I don't understand what the hell it was about Melee that I can play that shit single player for fucking hours. Like I can make up my own little storylines and everything in that
oh
fucking
yeah.
game. I
Dude, I
had
would do
no
like
idea.
tournaments and shit in there. I would do like sports seasons where I would like, I would like make up like divisions and have certain characters be like it was fucking crazy,
Yeah.
write it all down, and keep track of it. So, no, it's just Melee, dude. I don't
I want to say it's
it
because we were broke and we couldn't buy another game, so we made the best out of the games we had. But
possibly. I also just think mechanically, I still think Melee is the best game.
oh no, it is. No, that's by far the best mechanical game of
Yeah.
the Smash Brothers. I mean, people newer generations will try to argue with you and say the newer ones are better. I just think
They have more
I think the new
characters.
I think the newer ones went way too much in the fighting games direction, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, Melee
Um
is very unique in that space.
yeah.
It's not it
It
doesn't
didn't
have
try to be, it just had the
yeah.
stuff in there, you know? Like it was
It
really
just
fucking
worked
cool.
too, and control was so snappy and like I don't know. It's just I just that game. It just feels. I don't know. Maybe it's nostalgia talking, but it just
No, it man, I remember watching. You remember the little video they had, like the little 10-minute video they had of people just playing Melee inside of the Melee game. I don't know if it was 10 minutes. It
yeah,
was probably like 5 minutes or something like that. But they
yeah,
showed so many different mechanics in that video that you can do. That because you have to remember we didn't really have YouTube at the time,
yeah,
so like I remember there was one part where like Donkey Kong was throwing a bomb back to somebody else. He caught it. I was like, "You can catch stuff in the game?"
yeah, dude. Oh my god, yeah, man, yeah. And
And
then of course, the wave dashing, which was
yeah,
that's probably the one most people know. But
I didn't know you can
um,
wall tap or wall jump off stuff
yeah,
without
man.
using
Oh
your
yeah,
extra jump.
yep,
I found all that out through that little video I watched on the
yep,
GameCube, and then I told my brother about it, and then we just went to like different levels and we started trying the shit or whatever. And yeah, we were just like amazed. It unlocked the whole new potential in the game and everything. It was crazy. I don't know.
yeah.
Melee was such a gem.
Well, can you believe that game came out in 2001?
No, it still looks good.
That's what I'm saying. I don't. Super Smash Bros. Melee is like one of the. I don't know. It's probably in. It's got to be in my top 10 all time. Probably, I would say. Even though I haven't played it in years, but it's just like there's just some that fact that game came out at that moment of time. It just looked better than any game I'd ever played. Number one. And two, it just controlled better than almost any game I'd ever played up to that point. Like in terms of like an action oriented game where the gameplay is action focused. It was so fucking snappy, bro. It's just like it's crazy to think about. It was a real marvel of a game. Like I don't know. It was something special. So I have a lot of great memories with it. It's just the later games. They just never. I'm probably it just became a point where I was too old and friends didn't want to play it anymore. And even our friend group, I know we probably would play Smash, but I don't think like I would
I,
rather play Melee with you guys than I think the newer Smash at
I-
this point. You know?
yeah, for me, I was always a solo Smash player. I played with my brother and some of my family, but I was always a solo Smash Brothers player. So I always play like the single player stuff. And after Brawl has
Yeah.
a good single player content, but the newer Smash Brothers, it barely has any single player content. And on top of that, like I felt like the wonder was taken away with the way they unlocked the characters. And I mean, they're DLC. They're not really unlocked characters anymore. You know what I'm saying? So that took away from like
It
the
was all
magic.
randomized too, in
Yeah,
Ultimate. Like you got a random character after a certain amount of time. Like it wasn't there weren't specific conditions that you had to meet in order to
yeah,
get characters,
exactly.
and that was kind of the mystique of Melee. Is like every character had a very specific condition in order to unlock them. And part of the fun of the game was figuring all that out, you know? I think most of us probably got most of the characters pretty naturally, except for Mewtwo. That was the one that was like mysterious because nobody had that character unlocked. And the reason was because you had to play for 700 hours, you know, or I think it was either 700 hours or a certain number of matches or something like
Yeah,
that you had to
it was
play.
700 games, I think. 700 hours or
Yeah,
700
700
games.
games, yeah. Well, which is more than 700 hours, you know,
Yeah.
because you can set, and I think when I figured that out is what I just set the game to a minute, you know, and just played like that over and over and over and over again. Um and even though you didn't have to, you could just put 4 AI and play it that way and just, you know, hit it. But it was like if you're going to sit there every minute and press the A button to like start a new match, you might as well just play anyways. So, um
Oh, okay. It was rack up 20 hours combined in versus or play 700 games. That's what
gotcha.
it was. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, 20 hours. That was it? I thought it
Yeah,
was way more than
that's
that.
yeah, I thought it was too. I did the 700 games. What I used to do was I set up a custom match and with stock battle, one stock or whatever, had everybody's health up to or damage up to 999, and
Yeah.
then I'll just use Mario or somebody like that and up beam them into the air and they die instantly. Match will
Yeah.
end and I'll repeat the process and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, good times. I don't know. So we're in like I remember there were just certain things like the Fire Emblem characters, you know, Marth and Roy. Like we didn't know who they were at that point. Like we didn't
Yeah.
we didn't have Fire Emblem, you know, like
Yeah,
we
we
hadn't gotten a
did.
game. So they were so fucking mysterious in Japanese, you know, in terms of character designs to us. And then the music, I remember when the Hyrule Temple level would play with the Fire Emblem music,
Yep.
and sitting there thinking and like, dude, this music's fucking awesome. What is this game? You know, like what is this from? You know, it's just stuff like that, man. It just we just didn't have like because the internet was around, obviously, but it's like Montrell said, like we didn't have YouTube. You know, information was a lot more.
it
Uh,
was it was it was sectored off to certain parts of the internet. Like if
well,
you were
there's
in
it was a lot of rumors. You didn't know what was true or not. You
Yeah,
know, too.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like if you were in the game facts forum, you were
Hmm.
only in there for like your game
Oh
or
yeah,
whatever the case. It
absolutely.
was like small little pockets of the internet, which I kind of liked.
I kind
To
of
be
missed
honest
that.
with you,
Oh my
yeah,
god, it was so much more interesting because the communities were real. You know,
yeah,
like the people who were
exactly.
in there, you knew were real people. They were there for a specific purpose. It wasn't isn't what it wasn't what it is now, where it's just like you don't even know who's a bot, what's a fucking advertisement, who's
Yep,
real, who's trying to
exactly.
troll. It's just like it's just become the internet sucks now. It's like I don't know. Back in the day, it was way more authentic. You know, like obviously there was trolling and stuff and funny videos and things like that, but it was just more. I don't know. It was just different. You know, so. But yeah, man, Smash Bros. Melee, what a fucking game! Just looking at that, like, dude, looking at that cover, it's just such a fucking classic all time cover, man. Like it's so good, dude. It's so good. Oh my god. Anyways, all right. We're getting off on a tangent. Let's get into the show proper, Montreal. We can start with what we've been playing. Do you want to go first or would you like me to go? I got a lot
Actually,
of stuff to talk
I
about.
want to hear about your these three games you've been playing. I know you got
Okay.
four, but
Okay.
I already know the gist of one of them. But the other three,
Yeah,
I need to
so
know.
I'll start with Unicorn Overlord. I did finish this over the weekend. I beat the game. Not much more to say about it. I finished it off, got the platinum. I'm happy to move on from it, frankly, at this point.
So,
So,
so what's your final rating?
um, it's like a 7.5 or an
Okay.
8, somewhere in there. It's somewhere in that range. I think the thing with the game is the story in this game is fucking awful. Like it gets hilariously bad at a certain point. Because you remember how I told you the main crux of the plot is that there's mind control happening and everybody like turns on the main kingdom because they all get mind controlled into doing so, or at least the leadership does. And then time passes and the whole game is you rebelling against the people who took over, right, and like trying to take the continent back over. But there is a nation that's immune to the mind control, and it's like a beast nation. And this is a spoiler. I don't again the story in this game is fucking horrible, so like I don't really care about spoiling this, but if you do, skip forward like a minute or whatever. So there's this nation of beasts in the game, and they're immune to the traditional mind control that they do, because the mind control is not actually mind control. They're like inputting someone else's soul into the body to take it over, basically. So they can't do that with the beast because they're not compatible, right? The human soul is not compatible with the beast body. So what do they do in order to take this nation over? Is the one opportunity they have in the game to make the plot interesting, where it's not mind control? What do? They introduce a gem that can mind control the beast. It's just like it's just like so fucking stupid, dude. It's like I don't understand. It's so weird with Vanillaware because they're such good storytellers, generally speaking. I don't know what happened with this game. You know, it doesn't make any sense to me. The team, the company that made 13 Sentinels, Aegis Rim, and Odin Sphere, which have great stories, made a game that has like one of the worst stories I've probably ever experienced in a game. It's weird. It's very strange. So I don't know. You're here for the gameplay with this one. But like I said, I think last week, when you get to a certain point in this game, a certain level of power, especially if you're playing on normal, bro. Like I was playing on the highest difficulty the whole game, frankly, and I beat the whole game on the highest difficulty. But there was a post game mission I had to do that was really long, so I just said, "Fuck it, I'm gonna put it down to normal and see like how much easier it is." And bro, it was fucking it was like it's like I've been playing the game with training weights on, you know, the Rock Lee shit from Naruto when he takes those off and he's like super fast. Like that was me, dude. It was a fucking joke. Every single one of my squads couldn't even get touched by the enemy. Like I wasn't even taking damage. It was so fucking stupidly easy. So it's one of those things when you get to a certain level of power in this game, the game just becomes like fucking laughably easy. And yeah, so it just at that point the game becomes a lot less interesting because there's not a lot of thought going into it. You're really just like clicking on your unit and moving it where you want to move them, and then that's the game. You know, you're just winning every battle. It's like, so yeah. I mean, it's a good game. Definitely like not a bad tactics game. It definitely has like good gameplay. There's a good system here, good foundation, but frankly, to me, I don't want a sequel to this. I want Vanillaware to move on to something else. I like the fact that they genre hop, and I don't need another one of these. Honestly, there's a lot they could do to improve it. I'm sure, and I'm sure they would. It's just not what I'm looking for though out of them, to be honest. So it's a good game. Somewhere 7.5. I'll stick there. I think it's a solid game for sure. So moving on. Yeah, I said I've been playing a lot this week, and I have. So I started playing the Final Fantasy Pixel remasters, which I said I wanted to do, and I just said fuck it, I'm just gonna jump into it, dude. So I bought them. I bought the bundle on PSN, and started with Final Fantasy One, Pixel remaster, and I've already beat it. It's a very short game. It took me, I think, 11 and a half hours to finish the game and platinum it. So not very long at all. And frankly, I loved it for that. I just playing a game this short was so fucking refreshing to like feel like you play for 3 hours and you've gotten through a quarter of the fucking game. Like that feels so fucking good. In a game, it's just it's like not a normal experience at this point anymore for me in like modern gaming because every game is bloated and huge. Um, so yeah, Final Fantasy One's interesting. It plays like it's kind of more like Dragon Quest in this game where it's turn based. You know, it's strictly turn based JRPG, where you pick your commands and then they play out after you pick them. But there's no it's not the action stuff from Action Time Battle from Final Fantasy. I think it started with 6. I want to say so from 6 and 7 and beyond that they did with the games. So this is strictly turn based. But the funny thing about this game is a lot of the stuff that we know Final Fantasy for is not in this game. There's no Moogles, there's no Chocobos, there's no summons, like none of that, the icons, any of that shit. Like that stuff's not in the game really, at all. This game is very basic in its story premise. It's just the four characters. You create them at the beginning of the game. You give them names and you choose their classes or whatever. And they're just the Warriors of Light, and they're just these random 4 adventurers that have crystals for some reason. And basically you go around the world reactivating the elemental crystals, and then you fight chaos at the end, and you save the world. Chaos. Yeah, I know. It was kind of funny actually with the context of Stranger in Paradise, because Garland is the first boss you fight, weirdly enough, and you beat him like super easily. It's like it's like a fucking joke of a fight, which is weird. And then he doesn't pop up for the entire rest of the game until the very end, and he's the final boss. And he turns into chaos. And it's just like there's no real story here. This game's not a like it kind of sets up like a basic plot at the very beginning. And you just run around and you talk to some NPCs here and there, and they give you a little bit of information, but otherwise it's not. There's no cutscenes. There's no there's no characters like me like coming in. The villain doesn't show up and is like, ho ho ho, I'm gonna
Well,
stop you guys or
it's
anything like that.
that's
It's
kind of why I like Stranger in Paradise. I did play Final Fantasy 1
hmm
a long time ago,
hmm
and I was flipping out when your party members become the 4 bosses you fight in the game.
the
Uh
fiends, yeah.
yeah, the fiends. So,
Yeah,
I
so
was flip
I didn't get that far in Stranger Paradise. So that happened. That's what I thought was going to happen in the game, and it's cool that they played that out. I guess makes it kind of makes me want to go back to it. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's that's why I liked it. I was just like, because everyone was like, "Oh, this is a mockery of the first game," but the first game, like you said, really didn't have like such a grandioso story. It was like, I'm like,
No, it's
this
like
is
a
cool.
basic. It's the most basic. Like, dude, I think this inspiration for this game is D&D. It's the most basic ass D&D campaign you can imagine. Right? You have your
Hmm.
party with you have your spellcaster, your healer, your thief, and your fucking warrior, and you can have like a monk or a red mage instead. Like those are the 6 classes. I just stuck with the base 4, frankly, and obviously you get through the game fine, but yeah, it's like the game's actually got a lot of D&D inspiration in it with the kind of the setup of the story and just the world and the medieval elements of it and the kind of fantasy and the magic. Honestly, the most interesting thing is the magic system in this game is straight out of D&D. Like you have spell slots, which is so weird to think about. Like magic has levels in Final Fantasy 1. So like there's level 1 white magic, level 2 white magic, level 3 white magic, and this is the same for black magic all the way from levels 1 through 8. And your spellcasters have spell slots as they level up. Like they can only cast 4 level 1 spells before they need to like go to an inn and rest or something. Which is really interesting because I don't think any other Final Fantasy game has this concept in it. It's really kind of cool to go back and see that man, dude, they were inspired by D&D. Like
Yep.
that's really interesting. And this game has like elves in it and stuff and dwarves and like some of these more typical fantasy races, which is not really in Final Fantasy anymore for the most part. Like that's not a typical thing you find in most
Yeah,
Final
they
Fantasy
kind of
games.
went straight. I don't want to say they went straight anime, like in
Yeah.
terms of like how they did start doing Final Fantasy, but yeah, I mean, the original Final Fantasy, like you said, is which is probably why I got turned off by Final Fantasy so much
Yeah.
growing up later. I don't know. It's just I like the different stuff, but yeah, a
Well,
lot of people don't.
they went steampunk and then
Yeah, I
they kind
like that. I
yeah.
like the newer genres, but it's just like I think this is why I like Final Fantasy 16 so much because they kind of almost went back to the basics where like
Yeah.
this is like a fantasy story, or
Well, this
whatever
is
the
why I like
case may be.
14 so much, dude. 14 is it's got all those like classic fantasy elements in it. It has these
Yeah,
different races. There are elves in that game. They're not called elves, but they look
yeah,
basically elves, essentially. And it's like so I think that's why 14 is so appealing to me. And that's why it was so cool to come back to this game and see like where some of these ideas first started and that Square hasn't completely abandoned what they started here, with this game. But it was just really interesting to see those like D&D roots though. I was like, damn, dude. I mean, it is called Final Fantasy, fantasy, like the
yeah.
genre of fantasy. And like it's kind of easy to forget that because they've got away from that in the last 30 years. Like most of the games aren't fantasy at this point, It's like they're kind of something else for the most part. And to your point, that's why 16 is appealing to us and 14 is appealing to us, and I think even 11 to a lesser extent has some of this stuff too.
Yeah.
I didn't play that game, but from what I've heard of it, so yeah, it's interesting. It's a really basic game. It's very fast. I played it on I turned the run on immediately and increase the speed as much as possible, which is great. I love the fact that they give you these options in the Pixel Remaster because later in the game I was starting to get tired of fighting battles, right? And it's like
Mhm.
you get to that point where you're just like, I don't want to fight battles, and you can turn encounters off whenever you want, literally. And it is a bit of an exploit because you can tell the game's obviously not designed for you to be able to turn off encounters. Some of the dungeons in this game, I will say, this is one thing that's really interesting. The dungeons in Final Fantasy 1 are super long, like they are fucking huge. and they're built around the idea of the spell slots that your party has and how much you can kind of stretch those to get through the dungeon and fight the
Mm,
boss at the end.
okay,
And
yeah.
when you turn encounters off, you are completely nullifying that design entirely. So I actually tried to play with encounters on for the most part because I wanted to experience that more authentic kind of design space there that they had with the game, and it was interesting. Some of the dungeons you get to the end, dude, and you're fighting a boss that like kills your characters in 2 hits, and it's like, dude, I only have like 3 heal spells left. You know, it's like I don't have a lot of magic at my disposal to deal with this boss, but it's like that's so it's very interesting in that regard. Um, and I think it's very cool to see that. So, but I will say there are some times where the game, specifically, I think the Earth Shrine, the first shrine you go to, you go through it and you fight a boss, and then you leave. You have to leave because you can't. There's like a thing blocking you. You have to leave, go talk to an NPC. He gives you a rod that will let you get past that thing, and then you have to walk through the entire fucking dungeon again to go fight the next boss. And it's like they make you back. So at that point I turned encounters off for that, right? I'm not like fuck that. You know, it's just a waste of my fucking time. I already did this fucking dungeon, I'm not doing it again. So I think that's where the convenience comes in. That's really fucking nice. Like when you don't want to deal with shit like that, you don't have to. You know, you can just turn it off. And for somebody like me who doesn't love this style of game that much, like I definitely get fatigued with it after even 12 hours. You know, it's like I'm not somebody who can play this all the time. I don't love the Dragon Quest games. So for somebody like me, it's great. And then late game, there was a at the end of the game, I started like I turned on the leveling boost to start grinding, and it's like you can do up to 4 times experience. And man, it's so nice. Like it's so nice to be able to just do that and blast through and like not waste your time. You know, it's like the game is respecting your time now, which is good. I like that a lot. And then I will say the final boss, Chaos, is like really challenging actually. Like even leveled up. I think I was in the 80s when I finished the game. Even like that leveled up, the final boss was still challenging. Like he was almost one-shotting my characters with his normal physical attacks. So it was a very interesting in that regard too, that there's still challenge in that final boss fight. So it's a very cool game. I'm glad I played it. I want to go through the rest of the series and kind of experience it. This is really cool context. And just playing an old school game, it's just I haven't done this in a while. It's been probably, I don't know, a couple years since I really played something retro like this. And it's like it's fun to go back and play a game that isn't in the modern, doesn't have the modern sensibilities as much, you know. Even with the boosts and the turning off encounters and stuff like that, it's still an old school game in the way it plays, right?
Yeah.
So, and I really enjoy that. I was really enjoying that aspect to it. So, so yeah, Final Fantasy One, very cool. I really recommend it. It's so short that I think it's just like a really cool thing to see because this is from 1987. This game, and I mean, dude,
Damn.
we're talking like almost 40 years ago now. You know,
Oh my god, that's so
yeah, Final
crazy.
Fantasy is about to be 40 in like 3 years. You know, isn't that crazy to
That's
think
so
about?
crazy.
And just to play a game, an RPG from that period of time is really interesting. I think old school JRPGs are they hold up really well, I think, in terms of gameplay and structure and everything. And this game's no exception to that. So that was fun. It was definitely an interesting experience. And then I did move on to Final Fantasy 2 right afterwards. I have not played it very much. I think I probably played about an hour. And it is so different from Final Fantasy 1. It's crazy. They went nuts with what they decided to do in the second game. So it looks exactly the same, right? It doesn't have too many visual differences. Like you can tell the game was built on the same engine
Yeah.
back in the day, but the design of the progression and the RPG side of the game, the statistics and everything completely fucking different. There's no more spell slots. This is where they introduced the MP mechanic where you have magic points that you use to spend on magic. But dude, they introduced a system. Have you played Final Fantasy 2?
No, I haven't played 2. I haven't played 2 or
Okay.
3.
Okay, gotcha. So yeah, this game is so weird. There's no level in this game.
What?
You're not level 1, 2, 3, 4. Like your characters just exist and they are what they are. And when you fight a battle, you have a chance, depending on the things you do in battle, to increase your stats after the battle's over. So
Mm.
you don't level up. So it's like it sounds like what I know of Skyrim, where it's like you use abilities and that's how you make them better as you use them, in the game. And
Yeah.
it's the same thing here. So if you do an auto attack, you increase your strength. Like if you have a chance to increase your strength. If you cast magic, that'll increase your MP and your magic power and your magic level. And this game has skill levels for weapons. Weapons and magic have different skill levels. So you're using swords and you'll have level 1 in sword skill, and if you're fighting with a sword, you'll level that skill up to level 2 or 3 or 4, etc. In the game, and it's a very interesting system. So it's very randomized, where you'll fight a battle and your characters might not gain any stats, or they'll gain, they'll get HP, they'll get strength, they'll get not defense, like agility, which gives you evasion or something. And so it's very weird in that regard. It's totally different from anything Final Fantasy's ever done since, as far as I know. I'm pretty sure the system is unique to this game. um I'm gonna be honest, I don't love it so far in that regard. I kind of prefer the more traditional leveling, where you just get experience and you level up and your stats go up. Which I think makes sense why they never went back to this with future games. But I think the problem with it is it makes random battles feel less valuable to do, I guess, which is odd. um because yeah, there's a lot of random battles I do where my stats don't go up at all, and it just feels like a waste of time. Like there was just like I didn't really get anything out of it. And that's kind of a shitty feeling. And the other problem with this system is that there's no other form of progression in the game. Like there's nothing else you can do. Like you don't have skill points or skill trees, or like any kind of real customization in that regard. You can customize your character's equipment and magic loadout, which is interesting, certainly. And there's definitely a little bit more there than there was in the first game. Like your characters can like dual wield weapons now, which they couldn't do in the first game. And it's actually kind of cool because it gives them extra attacks if you have two weapons equipped. So they'll swing and they'll get a certain number of hits with the first weapon, then they'll actually swing again with the second weapon and get a certain number of hits with that. So that's kind of cool. There's like a little bit of unique depth there. There's also this mechanic of magic interference. So everybody can use magic in this game. There's no classes in Final Fantasy 2. So you can set your characters up how you want. So you can make your fighters use magic if you want to. But if you have them equipped with heavy armor, though, it makes their magic worse. There's this like magic interference stat, makes it harder to hit with. It's less effective, etc. So the game is kind of weird in that it penalizes you for wearing armor. And it makes your evasion lower. I think even your accuracy takes a hit with certain types of equipment on. So there are people out there who recommend actually playing the game with no armor on because it makes you so much worse, and it's weird. It doesn't really work super well because of all these things. They don't come together in a way that's balanced, in my opinion. So I don't know. This one it might be harder for me to get through to Final Fantasy 2 than it was 1 because it's not as straightforward. But it's not a long game either, from what I understand. I think it's in the same range of like 10 to 15 hours as the first one. So given that how quick that is, I'll probably get through it. I may just turn the boost on for this game though, because I don't like the systems, and I'm not sure I care to engage with them as they were too much. So yeah, we'll see. But so interesting game though, very interesting. Final Fantasy 2. 3 I think is where they introduced the job system for the first time, where you can actually like change jobs and stuff. So that'll be a fun one to jump into after I'm done with 2. And then of course everybody knows 4 and 6. 5 is the one that is much less known, but from what I understand is actually one of the more robust games in terms of progression with the job system and stuff in that game. So
Well,
yeah,
3
there's
and 4, you can download the 3D remakes of those on your iPhones, so you can do
mm,
that.
hmm which I think are those the GBA games?
Uh, I know 4 is definitely the DS version of it. Um,
Okay.
I'm not sure about 3. I
'Cause
didn't play the 3 make it 3.
3 was on the GBA, I think, and I played it back in the day. It didn't grab me. I'll say that.
Okay.
3 did not grab me at that time. So, but I do plan to play through all 6. I'm gonna power through these. Like I don't care what I'm feeling. Maybe I'll have to take a break at some point in the middle, but I really want to play all these games and like kind of dude, it's 2024, and I haven't played Final Fantasies 1 through 6 to completion. Like, I played 4 pretty extensively, but that's really it. Otherwise, I have not played any of them like super deeply. So yeah, excited to get through them. And the Pixel remaster, it's really cool because you can play with the original music, you can play with the original fonts and stuff. If you want, you because they have like a new font that you can turn on, and I actually hate the new font, so I went back to the classic look where it's the more like pixelated lettering and stuff. But I did keep the new music on, which is very good actually. The music, the redone music is awesome in both of these games so far. So excited to see that going forward too, because I know from Final Fantasy like 4, 5, and 6 have really good music. And hearing like remastered versions of those tracks is going to be really awesome. So very excited about that too. So yeah, and then the last game I did get in after I finished Unicorn Overlord. I did start playing Stellar Blade as well, and not as far as I want to be with it. I'm probably, I think I'm 7 or 8 hours in at this point. I'd say somewhere in that range, and I did start with my demo save, so that hour and a half from that is included in the 7 to 8 hours. I think as far as I think I am. And yeah, the game so far is it's kind of weird. This game it starts really fucking slow. Like the the game makes you go through because it's weird. The demo was like a linear level and it ends in a boss. And I kind of thought after that the game would let you go to the open area and like it would take you to the main like hub town and everything. And the game would open up after that. No, that's not the case at all. That level continues after that boss, and there's actually 2 more bosses after that. And frankly, most of my game time so far has been that first level. It's very linear. You can't get out of it. And you have to play through it. It's like probably 5 hours total, I would say. And like it's not a bad level. It's just that they don't want to introduce too many enemies, so you end up fighting the same enemies and the same kind of encounters over and over and over and over again for this entirety of this level. And these levels, some of these levels are big. Actually, they're very large, and they have a lot of like winding side paths and stuff you can go down to find like secret shit and like chests and power ups for Eve and stuff, and which is cool. I love all that. It's just that you're kind of fighting the same 4 or 5 enemies over and over again for the entirety of this like first level. And I just found that strange that they did that, because there's like a smattering of a few different other enemies here and there where you fight them like once, and then you don't fight them again for the entirety of the level, like the 5 hour level. And I'm just like, why did they do it like this? I don't really understand. I'm not sure I understand like why they designed it like this. And frankly, the story is like super slow to start too as a result, because it's really just you running through this level and like Adam's helping you get through it. And once you finish it, there's like a big boss at the end, and you beat the boss, and then you get to the main hub city, and there's kind of like a lore dump, a little bit of exposition, or a lot of exposition I should say. You can run around and explore the hub, and then you get introduced to what quote the open world area, which is not really that large. I kind of explored like half of it, I'd say, in about an hour, or hour to an hour and a half or so. And as far as I know, there's a second open area maybe later in the game that might get access to too. But it's cool. I liked this open area. It's not too large. It's not overwhelming. It's very dense. There's a lot of shit to find in it, which is cool. And there's also a lot of enemies running around in it as well to fight. But so I did enjoy the open area, at least of what I played of it so far. Um, I will say the kind of the enemy variety in the open area though is very light as well. You end up fighting the same, like so far in the areas I've been. There's only been a handful of different enemies, and they seem kind of like this area has like these 3 enemy types, and then like this area has like different 3 enemy types, and then there's this other area in the bottom that has like this 3 different enemy types, and it's like that's kind of how they seem to have segmented it, which is okay. But when you're in one spot for 30 minutes or 40 minutes, you're like, oh my god, I fought like 20 of these things, it's like it's like how many of these things could I fucking fight back to back to back, so yeah, the area design leaves a little bit to be desired, I'd say. In terms of the combat, Um, that is definitely the best part of the game for sure. It's the most enjoyable part of the game, and there's a lot of it. So you're going to be constantly kind of fighting stuff, which is good because it is the good part of the game. But I will say this feels like a game, and I'm already feeling this that will get better the longer you play because a lot of Eve's mechanics are locked behind the skill tree, and like this means like combos, combo moves, power ups, even certain types of dodge moves and stuff are locked behind the skill tree. Like you have to unlock them with the skill tree. And Which not something like obviously I've seen this before in other games. It's not a problem necessarily in terms of design, but I will say it is something that I think some people would get turned off by, right? Like when you're playing an action game, you kind of want to feel cool right away, you know? And that's not really the case in this game. You have very little at your disposal early in the game, and obviously that quickly changes as you get skill points and you can kind of explore the skill tree and choose what path you want to go down in terms of unlocks. But um, there's a lot to unlock. There's 5 different skill trees in the game, and you actually 2 of them are locked at the beginning. I still haven't even unlocked one of those 2 locked ones. So there seems to be other mechanics that are going to be introduced later as well that I don't even have yet. That will have their own skill trees. So it's kind of an interesting design space for the game because I don't think the combat is like excellent at the beginning. Like it's serviceable. It's fine. It's solid, right? It's not bad or anything. But I think that like layered kind of unlock system is gonna feel different to different people. You know, I don't know about you, like how you feel about what I'm saying right now. Like, does that appeal to you? I guess
Oh,
that
I'm
it
just
starts you.
listening.
Does that start like do
That's
you?
like the.
Does that appeal to you that it starts slow though? That it starts you slow with
I mean,
little tools to use.
I mean to be honest with you, that's almost normal for action games.
Yeah.
Particularly like Devil May Cry. The combat's fast, but it starts out slow. You don't unlock a lot of stuff. Like you don't get the ability to do to enemy step, which is like the main mechanic to do jump canceling and juggle enemies in the air
Mm.
and stuff like
Hmm.
that. You don't
Yeah.
get that. You have to unlock that. You have to unlock that for each character, depending on how many characters are and you're playing in the current Devil May Cry or whatever. So I mean, that's actually for me, actually, like Devil May Cry 3 has the most rigorous fucking unlock system. It depends
Mm.
on the style that you use. In the
Yeah.
old Devil May Cry 3, you only can choose 2 styles. You can't switch between all 4 styles. So you had to choose 2 styles at the beginning of the mission, and then the more you use those, the more get to unlock stuff and abilities for them and stuff like that. So uh Devil May Cry 3, Devil May Cry 4, and they didn't really modernize until like Devil May Cry 5. It was really slow. Bayonetta actually starts out pretty fast. It's kind of different from like the Devil May Cry formula. You get a lot of different tools at your disposal or just move
Yeah. She's
sets in
pretty
general.
powerful early in the game,
Yeah.
from what I
Uh,
remember.
so you get a lot of stuff at the beginning. That and that same design philosophy kind of carried on to near as well. 2B is kind of powerful at the beginning of the game as well. And you can unlock and stack on stuff as you encounter more enemies with that as well. So um, to be honest with you, even in Sekiro, which I think this game has a lot of inspiration from when I played the demo,
Definitely.
um, you don't even unlock the Makiri counter until like maybe 4 hours 3 or 4 hours
Yeah,
into
it's a
the
few
game.
hours.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
it's before the first boss, but that's
yeah,
probably 3 hours of gameplay, 3 or 4 hours.
yeah, so and that's like a integral part of your kit.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
Mm.
then you can start unlocking other stuff as you progress through the game or whatever the case may be. So that's not even uncommon. I've heard people say, um, for Stellar Blade at least, when you play the game and you play New Game Plus, it's like a whole different game now because you have everything unlocked. It's more of a
Ugh.
character action game after
Yeah.
you unlock everything.
I don't
Which
like that. I don't know.
yeah, and for I don't know how long this game is. I haven't looked at the numbers. Like Devil May Cry is a smooth 15 hours, right? Smooth 10 to 15 hours, 8 to 15, 8 to 10 hours, depending on the difficulty,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I can replay that multiple times. Like that's fine to me or whatever. I don't know if I want to do that for if this game was like 30 hours. I
It's
don't want
20
to
to
do that.
30.
It's 20 to
It's 20 to
30.
30 depending on how much you do, how much side stuff you do.
Yeah, I don't think I want to do that. Like I
I
don't know.
agree.
I understand why they did it, but it's like people have played through, Sekiro and Dark Souls and all those games. Like I just say Sekiro and Bloodborne to keep it into that echelon of like that genre. They have played those games multiple times. So maybe that's the crowd is it's going for, and I think that crowd will like that. The first playthrough of Stellar Blade is completely different from the second playthrough of Stellar Blade. But if you're like a one person type player, like a one game, one playthrough type player, then
Mhm.
this probably won't appeal to you, in my opinion. If I do when I do get it, I'm gonna wait till the price drops. I don't feel like dropping $70 for it. Um, I am gonna do like 2 or 3 playthroughs of it. I mean, I've gotten over the combat, and I've gotten over that it's not to what I thought it was gonna be. Um, and I'm also avoiding the discourse around the game, the Gooner versus like, oh, should the character even be looking this hot
Oh my
discourse.
god.
I think I think both sides of that argument
I don't want
have
any part of it. It's just so
yeah,
dumb. It's so stupid.
it's one of the most dumbest conversations I've ever had. I did have one conversation where I said I didn't understand why certain people and this is like nobody in particular I'm naming. I'm just saying like certain people who are against it, they were also the same people that were for it for Baldur's Gate 3, where you can, turn a guy into a bear and fuck him or whatever the case may be. And they're like, oh, it's so
Yeah.
fucking cool, man. So it's like I don't
Well, that was implied sex, though. It didn't happen on screen, But
okay,
it's like,
okay.
still,
But I
it's
mean,
your point,
even in
though.
Baldur's
Like the
Gate, you can
characters are
walk.
fucking naked all the time. You can literally
Yeah,
make them naked if you want. Like,
exactly. And one person did make a good point saying like that's your choice to do that. Whereas in Stellar Blade, the sexiness and all the shots and everything like that, that's like kind of forced upon you.
hold
Like,
on, though. The outfits aren't. Those are choice. You can completely cover Eve up if you want. Like, there
oh,
are
okay,
outfits where she has nothing showing, bro. There's no skin except for her face. Like,
okay,
and
okay.
I'm literally wearing one of those outfits right now. So it's not like they're showing you fucking cleavage shot. Like, dude, if you're wearing a costume where there's no cleavage, like, yeah, you might get the camera shot for it, but or like especially the ass probably. But it's dude, this whole conversation is so fucking dumb to me. Like, I hate this because the developers wanted to make a sexy character. Okay, like, what's wrong with that? Why are we so like up our own ass about this? It's like,
I don't get it. I'm tired of both sides, right? Like I just want we can have a sexy character. I don't care. I hate when people turn it because actually I feel like both sides turn this super political in my opinion. Like, oh, see, they have a sexy character and the Western developers don't like it. And then the Western side is like, we're never gonna design a character like that. Xbox had like came out and told they sent a press like an email to all their staff or whatever and say, don't design characters like this. And it's like, why? Why can't I design a character like that if I want to? It just both sides of the spectrum are like very, very, very
yeah,
aggressive. I
yeah.
don't get it. I feel like everyone's trying to stir up Gamergate Part 2. I lived through
I,
Gamergate
yeah,
Part 1. Like I'm like a survivor of that war. I don't want to go through that shit again. Like
yeah.
that was a terrible time. Like I mean, you remember on YouTube and on the
Oh my
magazines, on
god.
the forums,
Yeah.
it was fucking terrible. Games actually suffered because of that shit. Like
Bro,
it
you had
was,
like IGN and GameSpot putting out statements about their stance on game. It's like, what the fuck is happening? Like,
yeah, it was,
it's crazy, dude. We don't need that. We don't need that again. So I don't
yeah,
know.
it was. And then come to find out later on, now that a lot of female gamers are coming out or come out and saying like I used to play games back in the day. Like a lot of female gamers were like staying low key, but like now that they are coming out and they're like, yo, I used to play video games. A lot of them were like, I did like the sexy shit. Like one girl I know, she loved the Lollipop Chainsaw, whatever the fuck that game was called. She loved that fucking game, and she hated
Yeah.
like that
Yeah.
all the censorship and all that shit like that. And it's like okay, I like what do
Well,
you're
like,
doing
when
this?
is it? The thing is, okay. You remember Last of Us Part 2? I'm gonna
Yeah,
spoil something real quick in there, so skip ahead 15 seconds. You remember like Abby and what's his name having fucking, literally were
yeah.
naked having sex? Like, okay, why are we okay with that? Why are we okay with that? But like this character can't have a little cleavage showing? Like what is the explain the
it's
difference to
it's
me? Because
it's
I,
the
I get it.
context. It's the context, Justin. It's the
No,
context.
fuck that. I think you and I would both argue there is no situation in almost any store where having a full-on sex scene enhances the story. I've never
You
experienced a
you you
story
you
that
know
had
I've
a
been
sex
you know I've
scene.
been against
No,
sex scenes. I hate them.
no,
Okay.
seriously. There has never been a situation in any story I've ever experienced in my life that had a sex scene, like a full-on sex scene, whether the character was naked or not naked, but they're like, they're actually having sex on screen, where I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, that made the story better." That has never happened in my entire life, and it never will, because it never does anything for the plot. It's literally gratuitous in every situation. So, I don't want to hear it that, oh, it's okay in The Last of Us, and even in Baldur's Gate. That's like the one place in any type of media where I actually think those scenes have a place, because you're pursuing that relationship as the player with the character. So you have the agency to do that. And like they're, I don't want to say rewarding you, but like that's like the outcome you're trying to get to, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's like an experience the game is trying to give you. That's like the one place where I find it to be okay, But like something like The Last of Us with that scene didn't really do a whole lot for me. I didn't need to see it. It's like you could have implied it. My point is about that, you don't have to explicitly show it. Explicitly showing it doesn't do anything for the story. They could have faded to black as they're ripping each other's clothes off, and I get the point, right? It's
Yeah.
like, I don't need to see her face fucking like going through things, in the middle of the scene. I don't need to see that. So I'm like, so that's ultimately where I come down on this is like, why are we okay with those kind of scenes in a game like The Last of Us Part 2?
I
But then a character's just like provocative in the way they're designed, and oh, that's a huge fucking problem. It just doesn't make any sense, dude. Like I don't know. I get
yeah.
so irritated with these conversations because it just feels like a double standard. It's like Japanese developers and Korean developers are being held to a different standard than I think Western developers are, and
Yeah,
I think that's bullshit.
I was just gonna say that. I don't want to imply racism, but I believe it's they don't I don't believe they think it's racism, but it's some kind of racism that they're doing this bias for Western developers. But then when it comes to Eastern developers, I feel like they think
Hmm.
they don't know better. So they're like, oh, they're just horny bastards over there, and they're trying to do this. And it's like,
Like, fuck you, you're a horny bastard too. Like, I don't. What the fuck are
exactly.
you talking about, dude? Like, oh, Mass Effect's fine, The Witcher's fine. Like, but this, it's not like, there's like a hardcore fucking sex scene in Stellar Blade. That doesn't happen. The character just has a big ass and big boobs. It's like, what the fuck are we talking about? It's crazy. It's very selective in what people are angry about with this discussion. That's just how I feel about it, and it's I don't know. I don't feel like there's an authentic discussion happening, because if there
No,
was,
there
these other
definitely
games would
isn't.
come into question.
There definitely isn't. And then on the other side of that, like I don't know, people are making petitions and everything. People are getting upset that Sony patched up, you know, one of the swimsuits that was showing cleavage and then it stopped showing cleavage. It was like a little triangle, a little pixel stuff. I'm just like, all right, man, this is getting really, really fucking out of hand. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
so I don't know. I also complain too. Usually when a new game comes out like Stellar Blade or something like that, I always see gameplay of it. One thing I was really annoyed about was no one was showing gameplay. They were either people were like taking screenshots of her name's Eve, right? Of
Yes.
Eve, or like showing her go up and down a ladder, or just like, oh, the music and the vibes are so cool, and they would just show like the camera panning around her while the music is going to show the music. I'm like, what about the gameplay? Somebody please show me fucking gameplay. Please,
Yeah.
I played the demo already, so I know what the gameplay like, but I want to know what it's like 20 hours of the game, 30 hours of the game, because I know it would change, and no one has shown me that, and I was like, I don't want to go look for it. So it's just like whatever. Normally, I mean, I am going to have to look for it eventually.
I'm
But
gonna.
it's like,
I should just. I'll just upload some of the gameplay I've been recording, dude, so you can go take a look.
yeah, yeah,
Um.
bro. Like no one has been uploading anything. Like it's either
Yeah.
been like horny shots or no shots at all. Like no
Mhm.
one's showing gameplay though, and it's this is one of the weird games where I'm just like, what the fuck is going on with this game? Why
Oh,
is
people are
no
trying to
one?
hide something intentionally. Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't like why aren't people not showing the combat of this game or whatever the case may be? It just feel it's
Because
yeah,
that's,
like
what's weird about that is because it's the best part of the game and it's the most important part of the game, and it's weird that no one's showing that, because the sexiness of the character, the story, the environment design, the music, the rest of it, like none of that is really the focal point of the game. The focal point is the combat. That is the meat of this game. Like everything else is just dressing around it. to me. So it's like, because yeah, getting further into the combat, there was a patch day one that reduced. There was actually an input delay in the game that they took out or tried to take out. They took it out as much as they could, I guess. And there was this whole thing about this that they said they can't reduce the input delay any further than it already is delayed. So I'm because playing the game, I will say that is one thing I'm definitely noticing is the parries. This game is a parry game for sure.
Mhm.
The parry windows are not, they don't feel good. Like I'm not consistently, and maybe like people are going to argue this is a skill issue, but and maybe it is, but I'm having a hard time consistently hitting the parries for enemies, and it's like I'd hit like 2 of 4 maybe, or like 3 of 5 or something like that of a combo attack an enemy does. And I just don't feel like it's perfect enough. It's not like Sekiro. Like Sekiro's parry windows are perfection, you know? Like that game is so fucking precise. Like it feels so good, you know? And this game is just not at that level. And obviously this isn't like, I mean, comparing FromSoft to this developer Shift Up is not really fair necessarily. Like, you know, different level of resources, different level of
Yeah.
experience and whatnot. So, you know, going in expecting that is probably a little silly, but
I
at the same time, it's kind of
I
hard. Like
I
it's
I
clear inspiration, and you're not close enough to that mark. I feel like,
I
you know.
this is my issue with a lot of games that do the parry thing, and
Yeah,
um a lot of people don't play Sekiro. They haven't played Sekiro. Like a lot of people haven't played Sekiro. They either play
yeah.
Bloodborne or whatever the case may be. And then you get a game like either Stellar Blade, I even say Rise of the Ronin, um, and like maybe Jedi Fallen Order or Jedi Survivor or whatever,
Mm,
because it has
hmm.
parry in it as well.
Yeah,
You get those games, and it's like y'all don't like people don't understand what a fine tuned parry window is. Like they really don't get it, and it's like when I play these games, and I'm like I'm mashing the moment my sword clashes with the enemy sword, and I'm still getting hit. It's a problem. Like I know how to parry. You know what I'm saying? Like I played through Sekiro 5 billion
me
times. I know how to
too,
fucking
dude.
parry.
I
You
beat the
know,
whole game like no issue. You know, it's like,
so yeah, like I understand where you're coming from, and I'm pretty sure like I'm gonna have the same issue as well when I play through the
well,
game
there's like
because
a delay, dude. Like you hit the parry button, the block button, and like it feels like there is a half-second delay before the sword actually comes up and parries. So you have to almost anticipate the blows rather than timing it for exactly when they land. Which I don't. That's not what you're looking for, I guess, in this kind of game. You know, like it
yeah,
needs to be a little tighter than that to me. Because there is an animation for her to bring up the sword, which makes sense. I just think in Sekiro, like there's an animation in Sekiro too, but your characters are already in the stance to block, really. So it's like a very slight, like short animation. It's super quick. You know, it's just like a little bit of a like he's just adjusting the sword, you know, a little
yeah,
bit.
pretty
And
much,
whereas
yeah.
in this game, she's got the sword down at her hip and she's pulling it all the way up to block, you know.
So they actually
Um
activate the parry with the animation.
correct,
That's
yeah.
interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and it's not, it doesn't feel great, I guess. So I don't know. Like I'm sure I'll figure it out, and I'm not having trouble with the game, frankly. That's another thing with this game. The early part of this game is fucking easy, bro. Like I've only died I've died a few times. I've only had one death to a boss so far though. And I fought 3 bosses. So and the one that was the hard boss, the one that was like the big, it was the Alpha Natiba at the end of the first level. I one shot that boss too. So it's like the game's not that difficult so far. From what I've heard, it definitely ramps up and gets more difficult, but I don't, that's the part I'm, this game feels like it's in a weird middle ground. It doesn't really know like what it wants to be so far, you know? And
I
it's like
I I
that's
honestly think
awkward.
I honestly think it was supposed to be a character action game, and they swapped it mid development to a parry game. That's what I think. Um, I don't know. It gave me that vibe that it was going to be a character action game, and then now it's like a parry action game, which is okay. Um, I don't know. That's that's my 2 cents. I got to actually play the game. I'm
Mhm.
going to play the game though after all the fire has went out of the game. If that makes any
Yeah.
sense. And then I want to go into it fresh with like no outside influence or anything like that. So that's why I
Mhm.
actually didn't want to play because I was very disappointed and I didn't want to play the game while I'm still disappointed in the at the game. If that makes any
Yeah.
sense, because I don't think like,
Yeah.
I don't think it gives the game a fair chance. So I'm gonna just step away from it for a while. And that's
Yeah.
actually why I haven't been like shitting on it because I think it's a real. When I played the demo, I thought I was like, "Oh, this is like a well designed game. This is really good," but it's not what I wanted.
Yeah, and
So
I want to be clear too. Like I think I've been focusing on the negative so far. Is that I like the game. I'm having fun. Like I'm enjoying the game a lot, and I do think I'm going to finish this game. It's a fun game to play through. The levels have a lot of stuff to find in them. They're very dense levels, like which I think is really good for a game like this. It's not just running through an environment and there's like nothing to find. Like uh Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, for instance. um this game is very dense, and I think that's good for these kind of action games. They kind of need that, where you're finding those kind of like power ups for like your health. You need three of them to upgrade your health bar and like get more HP. They kind of have that mechanic, but you're also kind of leveling up at the same time, where you get skill points every time you level up. um and I do think like the combat, as much as the timings on certain things aren't great, I do think the design of the encounters is pretty good against regular enemies. There's a lot of instances where you go into an area and there's a lot of enemies. Like there's probably like 5 to 10 enemies that you maybe even more. One area that I ran into, there was probably like fucking 30 enemies. But they're kind of scattered, and you're not gonna. They're kind of designed as like a spot where there's like a specific encounter against like three or four of them. But some of them are tough because they'll put you up against like three kind of middle tier enemies, and you have to fight them all at the same time. Sometimes, like certain areas, you're able to kind of like maybe pull one of them, and you can kind of fight it 1v1, and then you pull the next one. But some of them you can't do that, where they'll kind of all come at you at the same time. And there's definitely a challenge there because I mean, if you've played for anybody who's played a Souls game or Sekiro, for instance, fighting multiple enemies at once in those games is very difficult. And
yep,
this game is kind of in the same boat in that regard. Fighting multiple enemies in this game is dangerous, very dangerous. You will die very quickly. So you kind of have to. There's a very tactical element to the combat, which is this is where I'm liking the game the most. Is the amount of tools you have at your disposal, especially as you get deeper into the game. Is you're starting to have a lot at your disposal, and you really have to think about how to use your stuff to kind of best take an encounter. And I'll give an example. I was in the open world, and I went into this new area, and there was this new type of enemy, these like droids, and they're ranged, and they shoot these like almost like shells at you, like grenade shells, and they explode and they do a lot of fucking damage. They hurt. So there was a spot I walked up to, and there were two of them flanking a bigger enemy that was like a melee droid that had like a giant staff. And I hadn't fought that thing before. And what I did was because once you finish the first level, you get access to a ranged weapon. So you have like a gun that you can shoot and aim and shoot. And that gun has different shells you can use. And the one I upgraded first was a kind of a charge shot where it shoots like a laser beam basically. And I started the battle out targeting one of the droids with the laser, and I killed that one with the charge shot. And then the second one, I let the big guy come towards me, and Eve has like a dash attack where she'll like rush an enemy and do an attack. I let the big guy come towards me, and then I dashed at the range guy. When he started committing to an attack, I dashed at the range guy and killed the range guy really quick, and then it was just 1v1 versus me and the big droid. And it's like if you just walked up and just didn't do any of that, that encounter would have been really fucking hard. So you got to be a little more tactical with the way you approach some of these fights, which I'm really liking that element to the game. I think they've done a really good job giving the player a lot of tools to work with and using those tools to kind of get through the encounters in the best way possible, right? Um, so I think that's the element of the game I'm probably the most impressed with right now is kind of that encounter design. As much as some of the enemies in certain areas, there's a little bit too much of the same enemies back to back to back to back. There is a lot of enemy variety. It's just they're not putting them all like they're not throwing them in the same areas together. It's like three or four enemy types in certain spots. So, but yeah, that tactical element of the game, I think that's something that you'll probably run into too. Is that is very cool. That's a cool thing. Having the gun and like the different shells you can use in the gun is really really interesting. You can actually power these things up too with there's a skill tree for the droid, for the drone rather, to power them up as well. So there's a little bit more progression to explore on that side too. So yeah, it's a cool game so far. I'm feeling like it's solid. Like I don't think it's amazing. I don't think it's bad though either by any stretch of the imagination. It's definitely a very solid game so far. So from what I've heard though, the latter half of the game, like the back half of the game, actually gets really fucking crazy and good. So I'm kind of excited to like get deeper into this game. Because what's interesting, I actually just hit a part in the game where you go into like a kind of the next linear level that the game presents you with after the open world section, and your sword doesn't work. So you like go into the level, and I haven't done anything beyond walking in the front door basically, but yeah, my sword doesn't work, so I can't fight in melee combat against any of the enemies right now, which is sounds horrifying. I'm like kind of like, oh fuck, this is gonna suck dick, you know. All you have is the gun, so it's going to be really interesting the way that level plays out, because that's going to be really challenging. You literally can't even take your sword out, like the game doesn't let you. So it's like removing your main function of attacking things and fighting things from your toolkit for a little while. So that is going to be certainly interesting to experience. So it does seem like the game is kind of trying to throw some different types of situations at you as well, which I think is a good thing in this type of game too. Is you don't want it to be the same thing for the entire game, right? That will definitely get stale and boring. So yeah, I'll have more to say next week for sure. I'm probably gonna, once we're done recording here, I'm probably just gonna jump right back into this game. So yeah, excited to do that. All right, Montrell, what about you? What have you been playing this week?
I'm just gonna let you know we already been like an hour and 10 minutes into this
Oh, I
shit.
know. I knew this was gonna happen. Dude, I had 3 games to talk about. Like I that's why when you said let's record early, I was like, fuck yes, let's do it, because I know this is probably going 3 hours today. So yeah. But yeah,
Yeah,
you
so
looks like have been in Fallout land with the show and etc.
yes, so I have been playing League of Legends. I dropped off a lot, and then I just came to the conclusion that I'm bad now. So I actually had to retool my mindset and relearn a lot of shit. Because believe it or not, those map changes change a lot of stuff, the way everything works.
Yeah.
So I did drop all the way back down to bronze, and now I'm back in silver. Um, and it's been a grueling experience, but like it is what it is. So yeah, enough of that. They're actually changing a lot of stuff too. They're getting rid of a lot of runes. I can't me personally, I know a lot of people are against it, and like I know I'm like the type of person who's like, fight the man and everything. But yo, if you want to watch my computer system to stop cheaters, bro, I
Mm.
will give you every hard drive in my thing, bro.
Kernel
Just
level access, baby.
yes,
Let's
bro.
go.
Get Vanguard out here, bro. I am so tired of
Absolutely.
these cheaters, man. Like
Yeah.
these bots and cheaters, man. I think it's just gonna make the whole experience better. It's gonna get a lot of people who don't want to play the game out of the game because they're just gonna be too afraid to play it because they may have some kind of cheat on there or whatever. Just get them
Mm.
all out of there. I'm fucking tired of it
Well,
at
you
this
don't
point.
deserve to play anyways if you're a cheater. Like, get the
Yeah,
fuck out, dude. Like, you're like, when you played split screen, you're like the person who's looking at everyone else's screen to see where they are on the map. Like,
yeah,
that's
man. It's like an
you,
honor
dude.
system,
Like,
man. You don't do that.
yeah,
You
like
know?
don't fucking do that shit, man. Like, that's you. Like, we won't play with you if you do that. It's like
Yeah.
so.
So yeah, but besides that, like it's been okay. I haven't touched the game in like maybe 4 or 5 days. But I am probably just gonna wait another time for the patch to come out. There and patch like 4.10 or something, or 14.10, which is probably gonna be in June.
Mm,
Um they're actually removing a lot of runes and a lot of maybe like two or
good,
three runes.
good.
And they're reworking a lot of the ADC items
Get
to
rid of
be
runes, bro. Just get rid of them. I don't need them in the game. Okay, like I'm sorry.
they're getting rid
No,
of a lot of the powerful ones.
No, I'm just saying get rid of the whole system, frankly. I know that would be huge for League. That would be a huge change, but I'm
Yeah.
sorry. That's one element of League I really dislike, is that the everything the your character's power is not all within a match.
Mm.
It's there's some external factors that you set up beforehand that are in, like, I prefer Dota, where it's everything with your character's power is within that game of Dota you are playing,
That would
Like,
be interesting. That would be interesting if they made that change. I mean, they'll be
Because dude,
accused.
Dota has a rune like system and it's like little skill trees that the characters have, and you
Yeah,
pick those as you're playing the game, like as you play the match. Like frankly, just do something like that, man. Like, I don't know. I feel like that would be I think that would be a great change for League personally. Like, I think it would make it a lot more interesting and engaging. It would be
yeah,
a new
because
layer of complexity,
yeah,
certainly.
because
But
you're kind of
yeah,
stuck to a play style when you play
correct.
a
You
certain
are. You
rune.
cannot. Your runes lock you into a certain type of items that you're gonna buy, and you can't pivot.
Yeah,
When you obviously runes only matter to a certain degree, but they do matter. If you're an ADC and you take the one that increases your attack speed, I forget what it's called.
no, they got
Like
rid of
you're
Lethal Tempo. They got rid of that one. They're getting rid
okay.
of Lethal. Yeah,
But let's take that. That's an example. Well, that might be a reason why they took it out because it locks you into a certain type of build. Like
yeah.
and like I don't love that. Because I think the design they're going for is much more. You have to make your decisions on the fly, and I think that's the league they're heading towards, and that's what the game should be.
That's what I think it should
Um,
be. I don't like, so for instance, like I play Silence mid and I would go either like, damage, pure damage, or I would go for a bruiser build with them,
yeah,
depending on who I'm laning against. Or if I'm laning against if I'm laning against like a mage or whatever, but I see that there's like 3 to 4 bruisers on the team, I'm gonna have to build bruiser to kind of stay in lock with them or whatever. I would like to do that on the fly. Like I can adjust it on the fly. Like, okay, well, they're actually building not tanky, so I can just go straight AP one shot glass cannon Silas or whatever the case may be. But like, I don't know. It's just I do like that idea. I think a lot of league players would be against it though, but I do like it.
well, yeah, it is a new layer of complexity.
Yeah,
Which obviously I know League tries to not put too much of that in, obviously.
yeah,
But I think the rune system as it is kind of a pointless layer of complexity because there's a meta rune page for every character. And the reason that is because you can't change it after you start the game. So you just go in with whatever the best rune page setup is for that character.
yeah,
Whereas if you had to make choices on the fly, if you're fighting against a tank setup, you might go for a build that within the game you might go for a build that helps you fight tanks.
yeah, exactly.
Um, so yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so it's been an experience. It's been a journey. I honestly think people really underestimate, especially like this is why I don't really listen to guides or go on Reddit anymore or anything like that. I just kind of learn it through brute force at this point. People really don't understand how bad like the lower elos are. Like even when people used to talk to me and I'm like in gold or whatever, when I was in gold and they're like, "Oh, well, I'm stuck in iron." I'm like, "Bro, it's easy as fuck to get iron. Just like lock in." No, even when you lock in, bro, even when you lock in, there's guaranteed to be. I don't know if they do it on purpose. I don't know if people. I don't know if I'm playing with like 12-year-olds or 10-year-olds. I don't fucking know, man. But there are people who just don't understand the concept of the game and they just fuck up the game. And it's actually amazing. Like I will be in the lead and I would try to help my team out as much as I can. Also, I don't also in lower elos, the comeback mechanic is really overpowered. It's insanely
Mm,
overpowered. Like when you're in the lead, um, and like some people may have gold on them, like they may be worth 400 or 500 gold because you're either fed them or you're like, you're getting assists for them and everything like that. They would blow that lead because they think they're so powerful or whatever. And that comeback mechanic, that comeback gold, the comeback XP, and all the other stuff, it's super fucking powerful in league. It's almost crazy how powerful it is in low elo. I think they should kind of get rid of it, in my opinion. I don't fucking like it. I know that would be a huge controversy, but like I just don't fucking like it. Also I don't like jungle used to be the easiest way to climb out of lower elos. It's almost impossible now with the comeback mechanics and the helpful jungle shit they have in jungle. Now I understand jungle is a difficult role. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like at this point your jungle can't spawn to so it used to do this mechanic where you
mm,
can kill like the raptors, right? So you go
yeah.
kill raptors and you leave one raptor, you can fuck the other jungler up because you left that one raptor and he didn't come clear that raptor up. So his the raptors didn't spawn new raptors
Oh,
for his
that's fucked
XP.
up.
So you could used to do that, right? And they used to be like the thing to do. When you invade somebody, you like don't take the camps fully. You just leave like one monster there and you can fuck up their camps like really bad, set them back really harshly. Now the camps automatically respond. Like even if you take one raptor, it's
Mm.
like so it's punishing like people who like to counter invade, like who like to invade or whatever, or counter jungling, what they call it. It punishes that. I honestly feel like counter jungling is almost useless at this point because you're especially in low elo because people don't know how to take advantage of it. Your team doesn't know how to take advantage of it. They don't know when to counter in jungle, and when the other and when I'm like laning and I have a jungler who's counter jungling, they don't know when to counter jungle. If my lane is pushed in, it's really bad to counter jungle at that point because I'm mid lane. So if I can't come help you if something pops off or something like that because I have to suck up
You're
this
in a
XP.
compromise. You're in a
Yeah,
compromised position. Right.
exactly. So um low elo is very fucking hard to get out of. I don't care what no guru tells you. I don't care what no fucking diamond person tells you. I don't care what anybody tells you. Low elo, like put them in low elo for a week and watch with not even a fresh account. Like you need to have an account that's mid silver or something like that and put them in low elo. It's going to be in terrible. It's like that's the reason I've been losing my games. Like, and I hate to be like, oh, it's my teammates type shit, but it's like that's what it is. I've actually been looking at my OPGG and they have this little stat next to you that's saying this player has been played above their skill level. Or this player is playing above the teams or the game skill level and what they're currently in or whatever. And my games have consistently been that. There's been a couple games where I like struggled, but I struggled on purpose because I'm like I'm purposely going to lose this lane because my character's at a disadvantage or whatever. And even junglers don't know how to take care of that. They don't understand when my lane's pushed in and I bend the wave to where they can come in and gank. They just don't see it. And I'm like, and I tried to be like a asshole and ping them like, hey, come, because I used to be a jungler, so I'm like, or I am a jungler, so I understand how annoying pings are. But at the
Mhm.
same time, it's like
Mhm.
you need to look, bro. There's a perfect gank opportunity and you're not taking advantage of it at all. I don't know. It's just in low elo, there's a lot of autopilots, and then I tilt, and then I can't function well when I'm tilting because I try to force fights and everything because a lot of people are scared to fight, and I try to force fights and all this other shit like that, and it's just like I don't know, man. Like, you do need to farm, and I understand the importance of farm, but I also understand the importance of fucking fighting, and people just don't know how to fucking fight,
Mhm. Yeah.
uh, and
Yeah.
and everything, and it's a really frustrating experience. Like, I think silver is kind of all right, but like bronze and silver, yeah, bronze and silver are fucking frustrating. Once I get back in gold, I think I'll be okay. And I know I'll probably like lose a couple of games in gold, but
Mhm.
I feel like those people are a little bit on my skill level.
Mhm.
Um, but like silver and bronze, bro, like those people, and I'm not even trying to be like offensive towards them or whatever, but like I don't know what it is with that skill bracket, but it's a terrible place to be in. Like you don't want to be that place is terribly that's a mental barrier for you. Like that will break you. And I feel like this must how grandmasters or challenger people feel when they play in diamond or whatever. And it's like whatever. I don't fucking care. Like if if you're doing something stupid in diamond, then you're legitimately trolling at this point. People purposely or they are unconsciously doing stuff stupid in silver and gold or silver and bronze.
Mhm.
And when you try to teach them, like, hey, I even try to type in chat like, hey man, like, don't try this or whatever, don't do this. It and they would still do it. And I'm like, hey, like they're realizing what you're doing, don't do that. It was even one character on the other team, right? I was going against them and I figured out his pattern. And I'm like, bro, I'm this is ranked by the way. And I'm like, because I knew I'm already up like 10 up, or I already knew going into the game I'm about to be 10 up because the first kill I got on him, I'm like, I'm about to kill him, I'm about to destroy him. And he had a character that was better than mine. And I'm
Mhm.
like, bro, how about you try this? He still didn't try it. I'm like, this will literally stop me from doing this is why I'm doing this or whatever. And
Mhm.
he just ignored me. And I'm just like, all right, man, it is what it is. Or maybe he had his chat turned off. And I understand turn your chat off or whatever the case may be. So that's another thing too. I don't like in low elo the functionalities. I understand why people are getting upset, and they use the pings for trolling. When I'm pinging missing though, I'm legitimately pinging something's missing, and like the game stops you from pinging at a certain point because you have to ping 20 billion times because people do not use their mini maps at all. I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, my mid lane's missing, or I'm coming down with you. I'm roaming with my mid laner because they're about to come attack you, and I'm about to counter gank them. They just don't see it, man. Like they either they mute their pings or the game mutes the pings for them or whatever, or they mute my ping, say you did this ping too many times. It's like I'm doing it for a reason because people don't look at the fucking mini map, bro. This is
Hmm.
I'm not spamming it to troll. I'm spamming it because they need to fucking pay attention. So
Yeah.
the game also holds you back because it's trying to be like handholdy. Um, the players aren't learning their mistakes. It's a terrible elo to be in my opinion. Um, I personally don't like it. I think also I still stick by this. ADCs and supports are the worst roles in the game as far as low elo. The worst role in that role can bring down the entire game. It doesn't matter if you're mid lane, jungler, and your top laner are doing terrific. We can. There has been games when we are all up 5 up on our characters or our laners or whatever, and we would actually dive mid lane so they can stop, dying down there, and they would still go 0 and 10, and then we have two useless characters in the game, and it's a fucking terrible role, man. Like I don't know what they need to do to ADCs. I I just don't know. That role is terrible. Um, as far as like the player mindset in that role. Um, I played it just to try to understand what the mindset is in ranked, and I still don't get it because I'm still roaming. I pick Ash though, so she's real easy to kind of like help out the team. Um, and I think people just need to stop playing like complicated ADCs and just play a straightforward ADC. But that's the problem. A lot of people play complicated ADCs down there, and they just don't know how it works. So that's been my experience with League. I just started playing this game. Maybe on Sunday, I had a tricky had an adventure trying to install this mod. So this mod is called Fallout Tale of the Two Wastelands. So Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas mod. You have to have both of the games installed to your computer or whatever. It's some tricks and tips you got to go through to get the mod installed or whatever, right? But once you do get it, it's a really good experience because it modernizes both Fallout New Vegas and Fallout 3. You have aim down sights in Fallout 3. You can crouch behind corners and peek out and stuff like that. There's just a lot of little quality of life stuff that they improved on both games, and everything of that nature. And on top of that, uh, the game somehow or the mods connected both worlds. So you can take the subway in Fallout 3 and then drive all the way to New Vegas.
The
And then
fuck?
you can play in New Vegas. Like,
What the fuck?
yeah,
Okay.
man. It's really cool. Um, so that's why I did put that video in there because like I said, the mod process is kind of complicated. It might only take you like an hour to set up everything.
Mhm.
Uh, but yeah,
So,
once you
are
get
you
everything,
intended to be the same character in both games though in that situation or
yeah, you can play. You can be the same character in both games. Um, and they also have like a little storyline set up for it, but it's
okay.
essentially it's the same game. You're still playing through Fallout 3. You're still looking for your father, and then you're still when you go to New Vegas, you're the courier, and you're playing through that or whatever the case may be. Um,
Gotcha.
and you can play through that storyline, or you can separate it. You can separate if you want to. They give you the option, but I'm just playing through both games or whatever. So I'm starting out in Fallout 3 right now. Um, I don't know. I think the game's great. I mean, besides some of the glitches here and there, like there's this weird camera glitch when you spawn back from dying. Your camera's in the ground, so you have to save and then reload, and then once you reload, your camera's back to normal or whatever. But yeah, all the improvements that the modding community has made with this mod package, because the mod package is called the Tale of Two Wasteland. It's just like maybe 5 to 10 gigs worth of mods, I think, or something like
Mhm.
that. It's a big mod package. But I feel like all the improvements are the improvements that the community has been asking for, and somebody just went ahead and did them fucking selves,
Yeah.
and I love it. Yeah, I don't know. I'm playing through Fallout 3. I forgot a lot of the story or the little tidbits here and there. I remember the main story, but like, just the little stuff or whatever that kind of was missing in Fallout 4.
Mhm.
Um I don't know, just the quirky back and forth with the NPCs. The writing was still, even though New Vegas has better writing than both of them, in 3, the writing was still really fucking good and funny.
Mhm.
And they still understood what Fallout was. Um, and I feel like when 4 came out, they just threw all that shit out the window, in my opinion. Um, but yeah, I haven't played through New Vegas yet, so I'm still playing through Fallout 3. I'm only like maybe 10 hours in or whatever. But yeah, I've been just having a blast playing it. It's been a fun experience, especially after watching the show, which we'll probably
Yeah.
get into later. But yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that's it for me.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I know you're pretty busy right now. Are there any games you're like that have come out recently you plan on jumping into, or
Yeah, man, it's so many games. I
it
really
feels
want to
like
play.
you're in the place I was last year
Yeah,
because I had the same problem last year. There's so many games that I didn't play any of them.
yeah,
You know. Yeah.
and I think this is my turn, and I'm just so busy. I
Yeah.
think you were busy last year too. You're like going through a whole transition with your job and everything like that, and I am too. So it's just like, uh, I think by the once I take this exam, even if I fail it, man, I'm just like, bro, I tried. At least I tried, right? And I'll try
Hmm.
again later. But yeah, it's just causing me so much stress. So yeah, I just don't have the capacity to bring on a new game. This is why I'm playing like older games right now.
Yeah.
Um,
Comfort food
yeah, I just want to play something I know,
and then leak.
whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do
Okay.
plan on playing. I really want to play Dragon's Dogma 2. Like that's on the top of my list.
That's my
Uh
next game after Stellar Blade.
yeah, I really want to play Dragon's Dogma 2. I really want to finish Rise of the Ronin. I really want to finish Wulong, even though that's like a last year game. I really want to finish Final Fantasy Rebirth. Um I really the actual top of my list though, I the Final Fantasy 16 DLC. I really want to fucking play that
Mm,
DLC.
I
Um
heard that it's really good.
Yeah, I really want to play it, man. I really want to
Yeah.
fucking play it. Um, so I really want to dive back into that. Um, and I really do want to play Stellar Blade. But like I said, I'm let it cool. By the time I get ready to play Stellar Blade, I'm gonna be in the place where I can play it. So that's probably gonna be like
Yeah.
August or some shit.
Yeah.
Um, there's also a couple little games I want to play from like I really want to play Prince of Persia. Well, there's not little games, but like Tales of I think it's called Tales of Tyloo or Kalu, like the African game, the African action game that just came
Mm,
out.
mhm.
Side scrolling action game that came out. Um, there's some RPGs I want to play on the Switch that I've downloaded that I can't really tell you what their names are because I've downloaded so many. There's some little JRPGs I want to play on the Switch. Um, I've also got like my emulator on my phone, so it's like now I'm about to go back and start playing maybe Heart Gold and Soul Silver on my fucking phone and shit like that. It's
Yeah.
so much stuff I want to
Sounds like
play.
you have a lot on your mind. You're just like
Yeah,
not
man.
picking anything. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So
Fair enough. Okay. All right. Well, let's move into the news then. Sir, an hour and 30 minutes in to the episode. So we're gonna start. This is kind of the biggest story this week. Is Xbox. They did a earnings call this past week, and they reported how their gaming division is doing. And Xbox console sales are down 30%, and they were down. They've been down 30% the last 2 months, March and April. And this is a year over year sales, so they're comparing against last year. They're down 30%, which is a huge drop off. However, overall gaming revenue is actually up for their gaming division. It's up 51% total, and then their content and services is up 62%. However, this is now starting to take the Activision Blizzard acquisition into account. So keep that in mind when hearing these numbers. Sounds impressive, but they are being buoyed significantly by Activision Blizzard. So yeah, Montreal console hardware sales down 30% year over year for a couple months now. I mean, I know we've been talking about Xbox, and obviously, earlier in the year when they brought over the few games over to PlayStation that they did, kind of what that means for the brand. But are we starting to see the ramifications of some of these decisions that their interest in their their ecosystem, console ecosystem, is starting to kind of dwindle a little bit.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I just I don't understand why I would buy an Xbox if I have a PC or
Hmm.
anything of that nature. And I
Right.
think also I think the biggest thing though is there's nothing I want to buy your Xbox for.
Right.
Like there aren't any exclusives I want to because I would rather play a lot of exclusives on my Xbox than on my PC. Um, but I had to swap from like for instance Starfield. I started out playing that on Xbox Series X, but it was locked at 30 frames, so I just put it on my PC, which is cool because I downloaded it on my Xbox. Bought it for both ecosystems or whatever, which is really fucking cool, or whatever the case may be. It just
Mm-hmm.
um I don't know, it just fucking sucks that I had to do that. Now they're, for if Starfield, now they're gonna release a big patch where they do have a 60 frames per second for the Xbox Series X and everything like that.
Wow.
Um
But you couldn't
um
have it for a launch? Like, come on, man.
well, I mean, people this is what I'm talking about. People use that excuse. The excuse for Starfield was this is a artistic decision to do that.
And here we are
And
6
here
months
we
later,
are.
and it's
And,
not. It's not
yeah,
an artistic
exactly. And
decision.
and and
Actually,
that's
8
a whole
months
different
later, but
conversation. But
yeah.
yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, Xbox has literally done nothing to get people to buy the Xbox. I in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, with these games coming over to PlayStation now, dude, it's just it's starting to feel like to me like a matter of time. It's like Starfield. I feel like Starfield will be on a PlayStation. Will be on PlayStation in the next couple of years. And I think that's going to be true for a lot of their exclusives. And I don't think this is indicative necessarily like the end of Xbox hardware. Still, I don't think that's happening in the short term. I don't think they're just going to like cut it off like next year or something. I think there's going to be another console. We know that the rumor is that it's coming early. Maybe in 2026. And frankly, I could even see 2025 at this point, with kind of where they are. But um, it's just the strategy they have employed is kind of led them down this path, focusing so hard on Game Pass. I think we've said for a long time on the show that their focus has not been selling Xboxes; it's been selling Game Pass, and I think that's really starting to play out in the public kind of majority kind of perception of Xbox in general now, and it's taken a long time to get here, but this doesn't surprise me necessarily. It just kind of feels like the writing's on the wall. Really, it's a matter of time, I think, until they go third party and they're more focused on games, being a publisher of games specifically, and that's not necessarily a bad thing per se. I mean, I do think somebody else will join the ring if Xbox goes away, though. I don't see Sony getting like full and total control monopoly of like the primary hardcore console space. That just I don't think I think another company would step in and try to take some of that market share. Um but regardless, I mean, I don't know, it's just like, with the games and revenue being up, I think that being buoyed by Activision Blizzard, obviously that makes sense. It's going to be a little bit more interesting with Microsoft next year when they're kind of comping against themselves. What they with the Activision Blizzard. They're going to continue to say, "Oh, sales are up, sales are way up. Oh, record sales for the Xbox division." And it's like, yeah, I mean, that's easy to say because you bought a fucking company that was $68 billion. It's like, so yeah, you're going to be hitting record sales numbers and stuff like that. So I don't know. These numbers to me don't really indicate much for the health of Xbox. I would be very concerned if their numbers were closer to being even, or negative, even with Activision Blizzard in the fold now. Um, so I don't know. It's we'll see kind of what their plan is. I guess. I mean, I don't know. There's rumors of like a handheld of some sort coming out of Microsoft too. Something akin to like a Steam Deck like device that's kind of a all in one. You can play your stuff on the go or on your console. If that moves the needle at all, that'll be interesting to see for sure. But I think Microsoft unfortunately has kind of they hedged their bets a little bit too much and didn't go all in on the console side of things in recent years, and it's playing out, you know. So, anything
Yeah,
else you
I
want to say
agree.
on this?
Nah, I hope they get their shit together. Probably not.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, there's not much more to say really. It's just like it feels like the writing's on the wall. So,
Yeah.
all right, Montreal. Let's move on to our next story, which is Blizzard, our favorite company here on this podcast. BlizzCon for 2024 has been canceled, and it's been canceled 3 of the last 5 years. I think they canceled it in 2020, 2022, and now in 2024. And they did have a digital event in 2021, and they actually had it in person last year, I believe,
Yeah, they did. Yep.
for the first time in like 5 years. But they're canceling it again. And I'll actually just read their little blog post here. So, quote, after careful consideration over the last year, we at Blizzard have made the decision not to hold BlizzCon in 2024. This decision was not made lightly, as BlizzCon remains a very special event for all of us, and we know many of you look forward to it. While we're approaching this year differently, and as we have explored different event formats in the past, rest assured that we are just excited as ever to bring BlizzCon back in future years. Over the next few months, we'll be sharing more details about our launches coming later this year, including World of Warcraft: The War Within and Diablo 4's first expansion, Vessel of Hatred. To celebrate these upcoming releases and to bring our communities together in new and special ways, we will soon share some exciting plans for other industry trade shows and conventions like Gamescom. We can't wait to tell you more about those plans soon. We also look for we're also looking forward to the Overwatch Championship Series stops at both DreamHack Dallas and DreamHack Stockholm, and we're thrilled to be planning multiple global in-person events to commemorate the 30th anniversary of Warcraft, which will be held in addition to the in-game celebrations across our Warcraft games through 2024. While these events are distinct from BlizzCon, we're harnessing all of our creativity and imagination to ensure that they carry the same spirit of celebration and togetherness. Our hope is that these experiences, alongside several live-streamed industry events, where we'll keep you up to date with what's happening in our game universes, will capture the essence of what makes the Blizzard community so special. No matter how no matter how you choose to connect with us at these events of this year, whether it be in person or virtually, we can't wait to see you there. End quote. So, um, you know, they said BlizzCon will be back in future years, and while I believe they want that, do you think that's actually going to be true?
No, I think they need to. They don't have any games, man. Like, why
I
would
know
I?
that's what I was thinking. What's even the point? There's nothing
Yeah,
to announce.
yeah, why would I want to hold? Why would I waste money on an event, a con? Like, even your fan base doesn't even like you at this point. You fucked up
Mhm.
on Overwatch, which was supposed to be like one of your new hardcore fan bases. You fucked up on Overwatch. Even Overwatch's players don't like Overwatch anymore. Um, World of Warcraft. I mean, I don't think people are gonna come out for World of Warcraft anymore. And you don't really have anything else. Like, those are the big two games you have. Besides that, what
Diablo.
else you have, man? Like, I mean,
Diablo.
Diablo. I forgot about Diablo. See, I completely forgot about Diablo, and I don't even think Diablo. I mean, even though I heard Diablo 4 has improved in season 2 dramatically, drastically rather, not dramatically. Uh, I don't. I feel like there isn't a big fan base for it anymore. Like,
Mm,
there isn't the hardcore fan base that they used to have anymore.
mhm,
Um, I feel like Diablo is a combination of old players, um, and then some of their other communities like World of Warcraft and Overwatch who just took a look at it and was like, oh, okay, this is it. But I feel like their hardcore fan base has died. They're still playing
mhm.
Diablo 2. Yeah, they are. They're still playing Diablo 2 at this
Yeah.
point. I'm pretty sure if we talk to Jet and Brad, they're like, if we want to play Diablo 2 right now, they're like, yeah, fuck yeah, let's go, let's go. Like,
Yeah.
you know, um, so yeah, I this is the problem with Blizzard. I mean, me and you both talked about it. Like, why even hold these conventions? You have literally no games.
Well,
Talk about PlayStation has no games. They literally have no
I
games.
know. Well, they canceled the survival game, right? When they got acquired by Microsoft. So that's gone. There's nothing to talk about there. They have a mobile Warcraft game, Arclight Rumble, I think is what it's called, that came out last year, and that, I mean, nobody's talking about that game. So That's not a game that you should be talking about at this kind of convention anyways for your hardcore fan base, right? So you can't do that. Everybody hates Diablo Immortal, right? Like that another mobile game that you've come out with. So you don't want to really want to talk about that one either. And then what else is there? Like, what are the new games? Do they have a game in development? I'm sure they have a new game in development. I'm sure they have a few actually, probably. But are they close enough to show? Definitely not. I mean, this is Blizzard we're talking about, man. Like they're slow, and it's like this feels like a after Diablo 4, like I just like what's the next game for Blizzard, you know? StarCraft's a dead franchise. Like you've basically abandoned it at this point. We haven't had a mainline release in that in what 10 years or so at this point.
Hmm.
And then Warcraft is a shell of itself with World of Warcraft and, a fucking joke of a remake with Warcraft 3 several years ago now. And it's like that's like a dead franchise. And like you said, Overwatch, their fucking fan base hates like their own fan base that likes Overwatch hates them for what happened with Overwatch. And then what else is there? It's I mean like a new IP. Like what the fuck's the new IP? Like what would it be? Like so Blizzard's outlook in the next few years, like I just don't see a game coming from them. Obviously they talk about the expansion with Diablo 4 and then they have a, expansion with World of Warcraft, but it's like, I mean, we've been doing this forever at this point. It's like who fucking cares? I'm sure the Diablo 4 expansion will be exciting, but the World of Warcraft one, I mean, this is the 20th year of that game, coming up in November. So it's an old ass game. It has a very specific fan base, and that's what that is. It's like that's not an exciting thing to talk about, at a convention. So, um, I don't know. They just, I don't, I don't feel, and it's too early for Microsoft to have made any effect really yet. Well, it's just funny because they did cancel the survival game, so I guess there is that effect. But in terms of affecting change or impacting the studio's culture, or just what games they focus on and what they're making and stuff, like that's going to play out over the next few years. So there's really not much to talk about, and it's like I could see BlizzCon taking a significant hiatus, like 2 or 3 years, where we don't see this convention, and maybe they'll bring it back at some point when they have like a few games to talk about that where it's like super exciting again. And they can have like a big blowout. But doing this every year, I mean, we've talked about this before. Doing this every year for one company just it doesn't really make whole lot of sense. So
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, if anything, they can combine BlizzCon with like they can have an in-person event, and Xbox can make it like their Xbox showcase type
yeah,
Xbox Con or something like that, right? Um,
right, exactly.
but I just don't see the point in doing that anymore. And like you said, like you mentioned all those games, like the only reason I know Overwatch is really is in a bad spot because their number one fan, who I know, which is DJ, fucking hates Overwatch too. He doesn't even fucking play anymore. And like, if you lost him, then I know you lost a
You
lot of
really
people.
fucked up. You really fucked up,
Yeah,
man. Yeah,
because he
yep.
gives you a lot. He gives a lot of grace to a lot of developers and stuff like that. And yeah, if you lost him, man, then uh, yeah, I know that game's not in a good spot, unfortunately. Um, but yeah, I mean, and what makes it so bad is Blizzard has the talent, has the IP to make wonderful games. They just don't want to. Like it's literally it's
It's
there's
as
no
simple
excuse
as
at this
that.
point.
It really
They
is as
just
simple
really
as
don't
that.
want to.
It's as simple as that. Like, you're really gonna sit here and tell me that like a Warcraft 4 RTS isn't gonna sell copies? It's like,
You don't
dude,
have
if
to put $3 billion behind it.
exactly. That's exactly what I was gonna say. You don't have to make it a $300 million budget to make Warcraft 4, but like give them 50 million and make Warcraft 4, and I fucking guarantee you that game will make its money back and then some.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like RTS is a genre that's been kind of dead for a while,
I
and
think the children yearn for it though. I think they do.
well, that's what I was gonna say. There are indications that there is a groundswell happening though with some of these indie games that's coming out, like that Storm, what the fuck's it called, Storm Surge or something. I forget what the name of the game is, but there's an RTS by like former Blizzard developers that's got a lot of buzz, out there. And I feel like this is a space that Blizzard is just like shouldn't abandon entirely. It doesn't make
Well,
sense to me. So
they always do this, man. They're always behind all the times. I mean, they're still fucking salty over Dota. That's why they made Heroes of the Storm.
yeah,
Like so it's like I personally believe there are young, talented developers within Blizzard that want to do stuff, and I think it's the older people holding them back.
Definitely.
It's people our age, it's the millennials
Yeah.
holding them back, you know? Uh,
Well, and I think the other thing with Warcraft specifically is I think I think they're afraid to touch it from a story standpoint because what do you do with an RTS in the Warcraft universe with the state of the story in World of Warcraft, with all the shit they've done is like what do you do? Do you do a period piece within the timeline somewhere and you set it in there or it's kind of hard to do that with everything happening in World of Warcraft. So it's like do you try to go forward in the timeline with Warcraft 4? That would take a significant amount of planning with lining that up with World of Warcraft expansions. So there are issues there, and I think they're kind of afraid to touch that as a result. And it's like, because think about it, dude. When was the last game in the Warcraft universe that's come out since World of Warcraft?
well,
Arclight
z
Rumble. That's it. There's nothing else.
yeah, but even it doesn't even have to be a fucking RTS. Warcraft has so many different characters and so many different genres where you can
Oh,
do so many different things.
dude.
Like, what if you made a survival horror genre a game within the underworld of the
Yeah.
fucking Warcraft? Like try different
Or
things out.
dude,
Like,
a fucking Western style RPG single
yeah,
player? Are you
yeah,
kidding me? Are you kidding me? Can you imagine how fucking awesome that would be in the Warcraft universe? Like, give me like fucking come on, man. Like
yeah. Like
these concepts aren't hard to come up with. Like, what are we doing?
there's
It's like
so
you
many different genres within that one game or that
God.
one franchise that I I just think they're scared to explore. I mean, we already talked about it
Bro, they're
with
just
like stuff.
chasing money with mobile games, bro. Like Arclight Run. What the fuck is that?
Yeah.
Like there's a community dedicated to it. I know this because I've looked into it. But who wants that game instead of like another game in like an actual like real game in set in the Warcraft universe? Like that's what I feel like the point we're at is Blizzard is so obsessed with just chasing money that they don't want to do anything interesting.
Yeah, and I think their creativity died a long time ago. Um, I don't know. I feel bad for the people who work for Blizzard right now, and I think they genuinely want to make different stuff. But I don't even think it's Xbox. Like I don't know, maybe Xbox on the back. It's the Blizzard leadership. They're just like we want to make more money. Like just give us more money
That's
stuff.
it. That's all
Yeah.
it is, man. That's what it always goes back to with them for me. And it's just so frustrating because yeah, I mean Warcraft is such a rich universe, and fuck, dude, imagine a StarCraft RPG or something. Like, can you imagine that, dude?
Hell,
Like,
you could give me a StarCraft fucking um airplane game where you're just nothing. You're doing like a Rogue Squadron type deal, but
or yeah, like a
StarCraft.
dogfighting game. Oh yeah, in
Yeah,
space or something. Hell
yeah,
yeah, dude, for sure. Like there's so many ideas that you could fucking do. But I mean, I go back to the RPG. That feels like the most obvious thing and the one that would be the most hype, probably.
yes, that will
But
definitely be the
like
most
in
hype.
either universe, StarCraft or Warcraft, I think they would both be extremely hype. But StarCraft specifically, can you imagine like planet hopping in like a single player RPG and you're going into like an old like Confederacy installation that's infested with Zerg and you're like, you're walking through it solo, like trying like almost like Fallout style where you're like going through like
Yeah,
terminals and like
it can
reading all
almost
like
be
dude,
like to the degree
oh,
of fucking Mass Effect. Like
oh
they can make a StarCraft Mass Effect game.
absolutely could. They
like
absolutely could. There's just no vision. Like they're just I don't know.
yeah, it's just I I think the industry right now is too scared because they think, oh, if we put money behind it, it's going to fail, and it's like, well, guys, you haven't tried. First of all, you're putting too much money behind stuff. I mean, look at that fucking what was that game? Immortals of Avium. They put
Yeah.
$125 million behind that. When that game could have been 50 million, to be honest with you. You
Hmm.
know, um, I don't know. I just it's not just a Blizzard thing. It's like an industry thing. I think, like I said, everything needs a reset at this point.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're currently going through. Unfortunately, a lot of people are suffering because of bad decisions from upper management.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep, fair enough. So, yeah, we don't need to continue a tangent on Blizzard, but
Yeah.
BlizzCon being canceled, not a surprise. So, I wouldn't expect to see it for a little while either, frankly. So, All right, Montrell, let's move on to March 2024 Circana numbers. So they came out really late this month. Matt Piscatella actually posted most of them on Twitter yesterday, so I'll go through them here real quick. So total video, excuse me, sorry. Total video game sales for March 2024 were 4.886 billion this year versus 4.715 billion last year. That's a 4% increase year over year. Video game content, so this is digital physical game sales, microtransactions, subscriptions, etc. 4.253 billion this year versus 3.919 billion last year. That is a 9% increase. Video game hardware was 391 million this year versus 574 million last year. That is a minus 32% decrease. Potentially largely due to the Xbox stuff we just talked about, with their console sales declining. And then video game accessories, 242 million this year versus 222 million last year. That is a 9% increase overall. And then the full year sales so far is 14.668 billion this year versus 13.773 billion last year. 6% increase. Video game content, 12.843 billion this year versus 11.738 billion last year. That's a 9% increase year over year. Video game hardware, 1.118 billion this year versus 1.468 billion last year. That is a minus 24% decrease. And then video game accessories, 707 million this year versus 567 million last year, a 25% increase there overall. So we're seeing the industry starting to grow a little bit more again. These numbers are starting to kind of inch their way up. It's not as flat as it was last year. This does make sense somewhat, for sure. But anything on there standing out to you, Montrell?
Uh, the Helldivers being up top, that's pretty cool.
Oh, the
Obviously
top
that,
20 list. Well, let
yeah.
me read the full list. I haven't gone through that. So, top 20 best selling games in the U.S. For the month of March 2024. Dragon's Dogma 2, number one, which is actually kind of crazy. Helldivers 2 at 2. MLB The Show 24 at 3. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 at 4. Number 5 is Rise of the Ronin. Number 6, Princess Peach Showtime. Number
Wow.
7, Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth. 8, Unicorn Overlord. 9, WWE 2K24. Number 10, Hogwarts Legacy. 11, Madden NFL
Finally,
24. 12, EA Sports FC 24. 13, Minecraft. 14, Horizon 2, Forbidden West. 15, Tekken 8. 16, Rainbow Six Siege. 17, Elden Ring. 18, Mario Kart 8. Number 19, Marvel Spider-Man 2. And 20, Mortal Kombat 1. Very interesting list. Top 20 for March. Like you said, Helldivers 2 still being high up there. That game has a very realistic chance of being the best selling game of the year. Uh, to me at this point. I doubt it will outdo Call of Duty. Probably that would be surprising, but it has a chance to be number 2, probably for sure.
probably yeah, for sure.
Which literally no one in the entire industry could have possibly predicted. I think. I don't think
I
that was on their
if this
bingo
rumor is
card.
true of Helldivers going to Xbox, it probably could outdo Call of Duty if it comes
I
to
don't think
Xbox.
so, man. I like with the console sales cratering the way they are. Like, how many copies realistically you think they would really sell on Xbox? Like a
I think
million?
they can get a good extra million on there.
Yeah, and I don't think that's enough to move the needle against Call of Duty. I mean, Call of Duty's selling 20 million a year. 25 million. So that's such a small amount. So I don't know. But yeah, Dragon's Dogma 2 at the top is crazy. I don't
I,
think I would have
I'm
ever
actually
expected that.
surprised that Rise of the Ronin is in the top 4.
Is ahead of the new Princess Peach game from Nintendo. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
that's crazy.
And then Unicorn Overlord being at 8? What?
That's actually not surprising. I've seen a
That's
lot of
fucking,
buzz.
I
I've
don't
seen a
know.
lot of people talking about it, a lot of YouTube videos talking about it.
Mhm.
That's not surprising at all. I mean, not it is surprising in the sense that it's a fresh IP and it's from Vanilla Software. But it's not surprising because a lot of people have been praising Vanilla Software, obviously because of their past games and everything of that nature. And
Mhm.
when this game came out, a lot of that fan base from the various different games, 13 Sentinels, what's the other one, the side scrolling one? Uh,
Odin Sphere. Yeah.
Odin Sphere, and then they make Dragon Crown.
Yes.
Yeah, in that community as well. A lot of them came together and probably supported this game as well. So which is funny because you said they ran out of money making this game.
I know.
They probably gave
Well,
it all
this is
back.
definitely a bigger hit than I think 13 Sentinels was. So
Yeah.
I don't
Um,
remember that game charting. So
critically
I,
acclaimed though. 13 Sentinels. It's
oh,
critically,
definitely.
yeah.
I think it's their best game, actually. Well, I don't know. I love Odin Sphere. Um, I think from a story perspective, 13 Sentinels is their best game.
Okay.
Odin Sphere is both. Like, it has a great story, but the gameplay is really good too. Like, it's a really
Hmm.
fun RPG to play. So I don't know. It's kind of hard to compare the two, but yeah, this is interesting because after WWE 2K24, it's just a bunch of shit from like the last few years. Tekken 8, I guess, is from this year,
Yep.
but Hogwarts Legacy, obviously the sports games are from last year. Horizon up there, Rainbow Six Siege again, jumping up into the fucking top 20. Elden Ring, Mario Kart, Spider Man, Mortal Kombat. So, but yeah, Rise of the Ronin actually charted top 20 for the year so far. They're number 14 on the year, top 20 for the year so far, which is crazy. So that game sold really well, dude.
I'm not
It sounds like
surprised. I mean, it's a good
it
game.
sounds like it's gonna outsell Neo.
Yeah, it's a good game, man. I think the community really came from Neo 2 and Wulong, and uh, even though Wulong didn't really chart, I think Neo 2 really knocked it out of the water because it was free a lot. It's still free. You can play it for free with your PlayStation Plus
Which
and
is
everything like that.
insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much content in that game, both of those games. So, well, yeah, congratulations to them, Team Ninja. I do hope though, whatever they make next, I don't know. From what it sounds like with what you were talking about with Rise of the Ronin, they like kind of lost their style a little bit, and I kind of hope they get back
I
to.
really want you to play it. I want you to play it and you be the judge of it.
Yeah. Well, I'm in the boat with you. I am where you are with Stellar Blade with Rise of the Ronin. Like, I don't want to pay full price for it, and I don't really want to play it right now. So it's like that's gonna probably be like a later in the year game for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do want to check it out. I'm not like I haven't taken it off my list or anything. So, cool. Anything else jumping out to you?
Nope. It kind of list kind of went as far as I wanted to go. So I was
Okay.
really waiting for this list because this was going to be a good list to look at.
Hmm.
To kind of judge where gamers' minds are at, and looks like people want different shit, man.
Yeah,
In
I
my
know. This is a really diverse list of games for
yeah,
sure. You got two sports games. You got a couple action RPGs. You got a Princess Peach platformer game, and then you have a fucking tactical RPG in here. So it's pretty interesting, actually. Honestly. So cool. All right, moving on to our next story. Wuthering Waves. I think we've talked about this game once or twice. So this is an action focused gotcha game coming out, and this game got a release date recently. It's actually happened over a month ago, I think. I just found out about this past week, though. Is that this game is coming out on May 22nd, and this game had caught both of our eyes because it looks like it has a much more in-depth action combat system than kind of what Genshin has, and I'm talking in terms of like the strict action mechanics of the game, not necessarily the depth of the overall combat system. Genshin does have a deep combat system. It's just the actual like moment to moment movement and everything like that isn't like super strong
yeah,
necessarily. So but yeah, May 22nd, it's going to be a free to play gotcha game, as it is with most of these games. But are you still interested in this game?
yes. I I thought I wasn't right, and then while we were actually talking, I think we were all talking about the Blizzard stuff. I
Yeah.
watched 11 minutes of gameplay, like having it in the background, and I'm like, "Fuck, this game looks good." as fuck.
I
So
know.
I'm interested again,
Yeah.
man. It looks so
Yeah.
fucking good, man.
Yeah, it definitely does. And I don't know, like I actually I didn't mention this in the games I'm playing. I kind of like jump back into Honkai a little bit
Mhm.
recently because there's been a couple patches since I dropped off. So there's some new story stuff, and but that game, it's not really pulling me back in though, like heavily. Whereas Wuthering Waves like looks really interesting, and I don't know if I really want to jump into this though. I don't need to be playing a gotcha game right now. One
Yeah.
that's like,
Are
I
you
don't know.
afraid you might get addicted to it or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, it happens to me with all these games,
Yeah. Okay.
so it's like I'm just kind of a sucker for this style of game for no fucking reason because they're not like they're money. They're literally money sinks. It's like,
Yeah.
but I don't know. This one does look like it has really fun gameplay though, which is I think what the promise of Genshin always was, and never, unfortunately, never like fully fulfilled, was that like hardcore kind of action RPG that has like a really strong end game. And I think this game is kind of going more for that style. So that, but oh my god, yeah, I'm like watching the gameplay right now. Like, dude, it does look pretty good. So I'll probably download it and check it out, and we'll kind of go from there with it. I don't know. It's like the thing is, I don't want to play a game like this right now though, because I've been so focused with playing single player stuff, and I'm happy with how many games I've played this year, and I really want to continue this momentum I have. Um, so yeah, I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at with it. As good as it looks.
Okay.
So cool. Well, if we do check it out, we'll definitely we'll cover it on the show, and we'll talk about how good it actually is. But yeah, May 22nd. So that's like basically less than 3 weeks from when you hear this. This game will be coming. So all right, Montreal, we got another release date that was announced. Metaphor, which I know you're very excited about this game. Metaphor Refantasia, coming from Atlas in the Persona teams, is coming on October 11th. And yeah, Montreal, with this one, are you how
This is
jazzed are you for this?
Yeah. This is gonna be a first day buy for me. Like
Yeah.
legitimately. It's been a while
Hmm.
since I've been excited for like not a turn. It is turn based RPG. I know everyone's like going crazy over Persona and Persona 3
Yeah.
Reloaded, and yeah, I mean, I didn't even buy Persona 5 on the first day.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't know. This game just looks fucking cool. Like I don't know why it looks so fucking cool to me, but it just looks so fucking cool. And I don't know. I think this team really wants to go dabble in like action combat because you see how you can start off fights. I mean, I know you can do it in like Persona 5 and everything of that nature. But this one almost looks like you can do like a full combo before you start a fucking actual encounter.
Yeah, I'm seeing. Yeah, that's interesting, dude. Like, I don't know. That's because they're like dodging and weaving and shit, and then they go into like a turn based thing. It's
Yeah,
weird, actually. But
yeah, it looks like the team
um,
kind of wants to experiment with that.
mhm.
I fully expect their next game to be like almost a pseudo action game.
You think they'll ever do that with Persona though? I don't see that. I
No, I
don't
think they're
know.
gonna do a new IP. It's gonna be a new IP.
They'll have this like side thing as kind of their like action,
Yeah,
space. But yeah, no, this game looks fucking sick, man. I don't know. Like, yeah, this I don't know why, but for some reason with Persona, I love Persona, right? Persona 4 and 5 are amazing games. And I love them both. And Persona 3 Reload, obviously, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna love that game too. But for some reason with Persona games, I am just not when they come out and they kind of come and go, and then I just kind of don't play them for a long time. And it's like I think it's just the commitment to them that you need to
yeah.
have. These are very long, extremely long games. And I don't know if Metaphor is going to be there in that kind of time frame. So I may end up playing this before Persona 3 Reload too, to be honest with you. Because yeah, this game looks really fucking
I,
interesting.
I just honestly don't have any interest in playing Persona Reloaded at this point. Um,
Hmm.
I think it's a great game for people who haven't played Persona 3. Um, but I
Yep.
did play Persona 3 before, so I remember a lot of the story beats. I just really don't have the desire to play it again, unfortunately.
Hmm.
Um, so that's why I've been skipping out on that game. And I actually do have SMT5, SMNT5. Um,
Yep.
and I really want to play that one because I didn't like the other. Like people will fucking flame me for that, but I don't necessarily like the other one, the older ones. They're like bootleg Pokemon slash
Yeah,
Persona games. I don't
yeah,
like it.
with crap stories.
Yeah, with crap stories, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I mean, for God's sake, you fight Dante in one of them for no fucking reason. So it's like,
that is weird. What the fuck? Okay.
so I personally don't like them that much, and that's why I've been avoiding them. But this one actually looks like the story's really good. The main character's really cool, and everything of that nature. So, yeah, I'm gonna give it a shot as well. That's one of the games on the Switch I would want to play. So
Well, one series I wish they would bring back actually is the Shin Megami Tensei Devil Survivor games,
mm,
which were like the tactical mix of like tactical game with like the SMT gameplay.
yeah, yep.
And those games are fucking. I've only played the first one really specifically, but the first one was fucking awesome. I love that game. It's probably, man, I don't want to say I like it better than Persona 5, but it's close. Like it's that good. It's a really interesting concept. So I kind of wish they would bring that kind of series back too. Like on Switch would be really fun, but it is cool to see them branching out. I don't want them to just be the Persona team because this studio is like so fucking talented, So
Mm-hmm.
I definitely want to see different types of games from them. So cool. So yeah, October 11th on that one. It is coming to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series XS, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. So you have a lot of different options to play this game for sure. All right, Montrell. Well, that's all we got for news. And we do want to do so. We both watched the Fallout show, and we're gonna do a little bit of a spoiler cast on the first season here. But we're gonna do that as a bonus to this episode. So I think we're gonna actually close out here. Actually, though, I did forget one thing. Guess the Metascore this week. So obviously, Stellar Blade just came out, and reviews are in for it. So you guessed a 79, and I guess an 82. Game is currently sitting at an 82 on Metacritic. So
Nice.
I got it right on the dot, baby. So yeah, pretty good on that one. We don't have Hellblade 2 reviews yet on that game, so we'll see when that one comes out. But there's nothing really coming up that I'd want to guess. So we'll just go from there. But yeah, so outside of that, we're gonna end the episode here for those of you who haven't watched the Follow show or don't want to listen to spoiler casts. So if you like this episode, please like the show, review the show, subscribe to the show, whatever feed you are listening to it on, and please share it with your friends. If you'd like to interact with either of us on Twitter, you can do so at iTrap for the Hokage for Montrell. That is the number 4, not the word. I'm at Thundernut01, and the show is at the Player's Take. If you'd like to send us questions, you can do so on Twitter, or you can send us an email to theplayerstake01@gmail.com. And that'll be it for us, guys. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you next week.